Greetings, everyone, and welcome to an episode that was recorded a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It's Monster Party! Monster
This is going to be epic. Epic. Okay, no, none of that.
Okay.
And none of that. Who are you, sir?
I am Matt Weinhold.
I am Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry Strothe.
And I'm James Gonis.
And this episode, it almost didn't happen.
Years in the making.
Yes.
Years in the making. We've threatened to do this episode forever, and now it's finally happening. We're talking about it. It's going to happen right now.
Matt, what is this killer topic?
The topic is Doctor Who.
Dun, 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 dun.
No, I'm kidding.
Are you serious?
I'm kidding, Larry.
Our great intro, you use it for Doctor Who?
The topic.
What is our galaxy epic topic?
Star Wars!
Star Oh, Star Wars! It's epic. It's timely. It's huge.
It is timely. It's time enough.
It's always timely.
And I mean, we've scattered. We've done so many episodes,
Yes.
and we're always like tossing a little bit.
Sprinkled
Yes,
Star Wars into so many topics.
and we've always been trying to. We've wanted to do this for years, but we're just waiting for the perfect guest.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mark Hamill.
Is not available.
No, we tried. We couldn't get Mark Hamill, but you know what, Matt? We got someone just as good.
Oh my God, I say even better.
Yeah.
How do you like that?
Better than Mark Hamill?
Yes.
Billy D. Williams?
No, that would be not as good.
Matt, who is our
This
guest
is
to help?
better than Mark
Yes.
Hamill. This is, talk about, first of all, not only is this person a Star Wars expert,
Expert.
but he is also family.
Family.
He's my brother-in-law.
No.
But on top of that, he is a world-renowned artist.
Yes.
Who has brought us such genre comic book classics as Transmetropolitan, The Boys.
The Boys.
Happy. He's worked on books like Wolverine and Justice League and The Punisher.
Who
and
is this
Space
guy?
Beaver.
Oh my gosh, Space Beaver! Who is this man?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Darrick Robertson!
Darrick Robertson!
The return of Darrick Robertson.
Oh my gosh!
Hi, everyone.
It had to happen.
Oh my gosh, we had you on an episode ages ago.
I had
right.
so
That
much
was-
fun.
that was
I'm
our
so happy to be back.
Superhero.
Yeah.
Superhero.
That was so much fun. I'm love to be back here in the new Monster Party headquarters.
It was so great because you know so much about. You're like Mr. Superhero, but I didn't realize you're also Mr. Star
That's
Wars.
he
where it's all
loves it.
born from. I
Yeah.
mean, those two worlds came together, and
Wouldn't you say
One
Space
moment.
Beaver was kind of a...
it's my regurgitation.
Yeah,
of
it was
everything
your
I love.
homage.
Absolutely. There's so much Star Wars in Space Beaver.
Yeah.
Now I understand. Okay, so we're all about the same age. We're kind of like older guys, but you
He's a little younger than us.
But you know, you brought something along with you to kind of help us give like a new
Wait a
look
minute.
at things.
Fresh
brought,
look.
brought something?
I made
does that mean?
I made something.
Okay.
And that would be my son Owen.
Cool.
Our special guest Owen Robertson is here.
Welcome.
How's it going? Thank you guys for having me on.
Now,
Thank you for being here. And Owen, how old are you?
I am 17.
Holy crap.
yeah, you're
You're
the
a generation Star Trek or Star Wars fan.
are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
God bless you.
First Doctor Who, now Star
Because
Trek.
it's taking so long to get to this. I can't remember.
We're doing everything we can to just bowl through this topic.
Now, Owen, you're a big Star Wars fan, right?
And that's where the generational difference kicks in.
You
I wouldn't
like
call it
it,
a
right?
generational
You like
difference.
it.
I call it a Star Trek generational difference. No. I'm a Star Wars fan, but I wouldn't say by choice. kind of in the way, like you're born Catholic, and then you're kind of raised Catholic.
That's the sad
I
truth
understand.
here. Is that
I totally get that. It's like sports too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're like your parents love sports, so you're just like, yeah, I understand football.
Yeah, this is an excuse to hang out with my dad. Maybe my dad will talk to me if I mention
now that's a little
Lando
far out
Calrissian.
there, but like, yeah, no, I get what you're trying to say.
Or because there comes a point where you're just like, don't talk to me anymore, right? Because it probably happened like 16.
yeah, no, I hate my parents.
he puts the Luke Skywalker outfit on, or he gets the hose again.
No.
If only it was only the host.
Well, let's.
Well, wait a minute.
Yes.
Wait a minute. First of all, let's just get this thing going with a basic, simple question, which is, what is Star Wars, and how do we stop it?
No. We don't want to stop it, man.
Don't we?
No.
It's a war.
No. Okay, see.
What do we
here's-
know about wars?
Look, this is what.
What is it
They
good
last
for?
way too long,
No,
and everyone's happy when they're over.
But there's gonna be a happiness part to Star Wars. It's coming.
When?
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
That's like that whole Jesus coming back thing.
Well.
Emperor Palpatine gets impeached.
Okay. So for people who don't know Star Wars, though, for any listeners who don't know
come
about
on.
Star Wars,
I don't really know Star Wars, so
Yeah,
go ahead.
It's not. It never really caught on the way like with
No.
like the Beatles did.
so why don't
No.
we take a little trip back to
Let's go back in
the summer of
time.
1977?
Oh,
Okay.
that's a short trip for me. I don't think I ever left.
So no, but I mean we've mentioned things before, but I remember 6 months before May 26th, and I was in the movie theater, and I forget what movie we were seeing exactly. But what was profound was I saw this preview, and the preview did not have the John Williams Star Wars
No,
music.
I remember that
It
preview.
was,
Right.
and what it was the
A boy and a girl and an epic. It was a love
in
story
galaxy.
between a brother and
Yeah,
a sister.
And the weird thing is it didn't have the music, and the Star Wars title was getting closer and closer to the audience. It was like, and it showed just these clips.
Yeah.
Who was the narrator? Was it It wasn't Orson Welles, was it?
I don't think so.
It was
Edward
Orson Welles.
Krang.
It was kind of like a Paul. It was kind of like a Paul
Simon
Frees
Blau.
kind of. But the thing that
Ronald
got me,
Nick.
the thing that got me about it as I was watching it was. All it was this narration that really didn't give you a lot of the story. It's about a boy and a girl in a galaxy, and then it showed these clips of the spaceship flying by, and then they're coming in too fast, and it clipped, and then this furry monster going, "Arr!" It was like clip, and then these two guys, this guy dressed all in black with a black helmet, fighting with this looked like an electric sword with some guy in a hood, and then there was like a little robot. It was like clip, and it was almost like
John Cassavetes has never been
Well, it's funny because you say
more
that.
off his game.
You say that, but it was like one of the first times.
I'm with you.
When you see, and I'll just throw this out. When you see the Logan's Run preview,
Yeah.
I'm saying the Logan's Run preview.
Yes.
You're looking at an environment of space or future
Yes.
that is all very clean. Okay, and it kind of basically tells the story. With this Star Wars film, first of all, things looked dirty. Things looked like they were used, like this
lived in.
Yeah.
and also. You had really no idea.
Can I
Please.
But what's funny is like I grew up. My father was an airline mechanic, and so
Like my brother.
That's right. So the whole idea of a Star Wars, the way the Star Wars universe was put together, to what you're saying, that I could see the nuts and bolts of things. And to go a step further, like in Empire Strikes Back, when they're trying to like get the Falcon to work, and they're working on it, and they're bitching about what's
Right.
not working, like that really resonated with me because it made it a real machine. And I understood machines because my father was a mechanic. So that greasy element of it was something that really appealed to me. And what was crazy is, like, we were talking about that original trailer, is that the earliest impressions of Star Wars I had, it was like a grindhouse film. It wasn't this slick.
Right.
It's actually why the prequels are such a disservice to the franchise, is
Yes.
because it immediately takes away that grindhouse element.
that
because
patina
I
of,
have
like-
old
Yeah, it
memories.
cleans it up.
Only you and I probably remember Creature Features.
Well, and Larry's a giant Creature Features fan.
Were you a Bay Area guy?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize
That's
that.
okay.
I thought maybe you were from down here, but because it seems it's a very localized knowledge of that guy. But there was a little shot of Darth Vader looking over his shoulder right before he tortures Princess Leia.
Yes.
Because I know exactly that second in
Yeah.
the movie. But that was part of like the Creature Features intro with like
Yes.
Dracula
Right.
and
Yes.
Godzilla.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden
It was
there's
just
Darth Vader
another
looking over his
fantasy
shoulder.
film.
And I'm
Was
like,
that the first or second one?
It's the first one.
the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's A New Hope. And but that was like one of those things that cemented Star Wars in my, 10-year-old brain was like it was a part of Creature Features. It wasn't it wasn't for everybody. It was this thing that not most people knew about.
But then it became for everybody.
But
oh
actually,
my God!
before that,
I don't know if you heard about this place called Disneyland.
Oh, don't. We'll get to
apparently-
that.
We'll get to that.
But
We'll
like,
get to
but
that.
like, here's mentioned Logan's Run. And it's true that how Logan's Run was like an early '70s sci-fi movie, and I think most big budget sci-fi movies up to that point, yeah, it was like that kind of clean, kind of disco future, chrome and beautiful people, and just kind of you lived in a mall.
You live in a mall, yeah.
And Star Wars was like that total shift in that. It was like making it like kind of down and dirty, gritty kind of thing. But I always wondered that because like I want to ask you this question: is like you had other sci-fi films in the '70s, Logan's Run, Silent Running, these and other movies that were they were popular and they were successful. They were one-shot movies. Like was it just the right timing, the right aesthetic, like to make that? Not only did it a successful franchise, like just an empire, a whole movement.
What do you think made that film break like it did?
Why did it make the impact that it did? Like
okay.
where it was
You're-
like it
because
just
it broke archetypes.
Also, the other reason you have to remember when you look at films in the 70s
Right.
and what was going on in history, in American history at that time.
I
We
agree.
had just got out of Vietnam.
Yes.
Okay. We have a new president, Jimmy Carter. We have the oil embargo. We've had the films like The Godfather,
Hostages.
and we've had the hostages stuff. And Star Wars, the funny thing about Star Wars, it takes you completely to a different place.
Right.
It's
and it
pure-
has
pure, like, undiluted
escapism.
escapism,
And the
yeah.
other thing is, talk about a feel-good movie where the underdog,
And then
overcomes this
spoilers blows up the Death Star.
Yes, spoiler alert.
After the 70s, there was so many of these nihilistic films that had downbeat endings and anti-heroes.
Right.
Well, it
now,
goes-
now you've got a movie with flat-out archetypal heroes
Right.
But it goes,
and bad
yeah.
guys.
And it goes hand in hand, though, I think, with Rocky and Jaws as well.
Yes.
Right,
Because Rocky was the same,
totally,
and
yes.
Jaws is that
think
summer
Rocky
that
is-
summer movie like thrill ride.
Yeah.
You
And
got
those-
it. You got spot on with comparing it to Rocky,
Mm-hmm.
and Rocky is another example because Rocky loses the first movie.
Right.
Spoilers. But here's what
he
I
did-
think is interesting.
but he wins the battle.
I know, but
In a- in a
in his
sense.
own way.
right.
It's true.
He went the distance.
But here's the thing where a lot of people disconnect, and I think we get conflict in current nerddom is that Star Wars is a fantasy, Star Trek is sci-fi.
True. Yeah,
And
I
I
agree.
think that the idea.
Try to explain that to people, though.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like, but I'm perfectly
Yeah.
happy for Star Wars to be like Lord of the Rings. Like, I don't want reality in my Star Wars, like
Right.
any more than I want fantasy to an unbelievable level,
Like
in
magic in Star Trek.
I love
Right.
Star Trek for what it is. I don't see those two worlds colliding.
They shouldn't.
No, I see that. If I go to a bar. I want a vodka martini, but if I'm going to order a Manhattan, I don't want vodka in my Manhattan. I want a bourbon Manhattan.
Right. You want it to be pure what it is.
They're different things. They're different liquors. And,
What about
and
Tron?
No, I
Yeah.
agree. I completely agree with that. And my problem though
don't put
is
sushi in my spaghetti.
my thing with Star Wars is not necessarily that one is. First of all, it shouldn't be competing with anything. It should be its
Right.
own world, and it should be pure to its world, and it should just be good. And that's my problem with the Star Wars franchise is that it started off Star Wars. The first Star Wars to me, what became Larry. A New Hope,
Yes.
which was not a New
Not the-
Hope
no.
when it
Right,
started.
right.
I got in a
But-
big fight with my brother about this.
Yeah, but that first movie,
Yeah.
Star Wars,
Meant to be its own
Wars.
beast.
was amazing, and it's still
Amazing.
one of my favorite films
One
of
of
all
my-
time.
And let's
My
and-
all-time
And
favorite movie.
let's be clear here because we are of a certain age. Kids like Owen today, if they try to see it, what they're going to see is they're going to see A New Hope, Episode 4. That's what they're going to see. They don't realize, and if no one tells them, they don't know that back in May 26 in 1977, when this film came out, the title of the film was Star Wars. the crawl started. There was no episode. This was a one-off
right. That's
film.
absolutely true.
Yep.
There was no intention of making another one of these.
No matter what George Lucas says.
That's right.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
George Lucas likes to go back on everything.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that
Yeah.
I think that movie is great despite George Lucas.
Well, and let's be clear too about Mr. Lucas. We did a show called Celebrity Encounters where we all talked about meeting Mr. Lucas and our wonderful
Such a
guest
sweetheart.
Brian Peck had a wonderful stories about seeing the Phantom Menace and stuff. Let's understand that George Lucas, you could say, oh, the man's a genius. Remember that Star Wars was not something that he did by himself. Okay.
Oh, wow.
As a matter of fact, see, no. But people have this idea. It's like, oh my God, they hold him on a pedestal like he's a god. Now, look, I'm saying the man is very creative, but
Lawrence Kasdan.
Let's throw out another thing. One of my instructors at AFI, producing instructors, was a gentleman named Dale Pollock, who wrote for all kinds of. He wrote for the LA Times and he went on to produce a ton of movies. But at the time, he was a hotshot writer. And when 1983 came around, he was asked to spend time with Mr. Lucas to try to write this book called Skywalking. And he spent like I don't know, it was like 6 months or something with Mr. Lucas. And he found out a lot of things. Then it's documented in his book called Skywalking, The Life and Films of George Lucas. One of the things that I was really blown away with was, so I'm thinking, okay, so George, it took a long time to write this story, he's struggling. Well, some of the ideas weren't even his. He had an issue with Ben Kenobi. He wasn't sure what to do with Ben Kenobi because Ben Kenobi is this great guy, this great character, and then when you get to the second half, it's like, oh my gosh, what do I do? What do I do with him? And it was his wife that said, you know what, honey, why don't you kill him off? It was his wife's idea to do that, and which made it that much more powerful.
She's
And
also the editor.
She
too.
was one of three
Right.
three editors, by the way.
But apparently she
talented.
did a lot of really amazing work on that film that helped a lot of the problems.
Yes.
Yeah, and
This is where I know too much.
All right,
No,
go.
no, start talking
go ahead.
Go.
No, you're absolutely right. Like one of the, I'm not a person who likes to shit on George Lucas because I don't think he realized the genie in the bottle that he had when he started, and he made.
He's still a good filmmaker.
No, I mean,
I love THX 1138, and I love American Graffiti.
and he wanted to be a great filmmaker and move beyond this. So I don't.
That's the key.
That's it. And so I don't really like blame the guy for creating something that, I mean, God, my God, it just means so much to me. But you're absolutely right that it isn't him by himself any more than Stan Lee created the Marvel Universe all alone.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Yes.
But it's like, and so but I don't like to shit on George Lucas because he gave.
He
so
speaks
much
so
to my
highly of
child.
you.
Well, he does. I mean, George and I were hanging recently, and he's a little bit of a sloppy drunk.
Yeah.
and
Oh, I know.
But when
Don't
the
get me
kiss,
started.
well, I'm
Whoa,
just saying when the
Derek,
kisses on the
Derek,
cheeks come, and I like.
He's all hands.
George.
Derek, come on, guys, come on.
He's all hands.
This is how rumors get started. See, look, Owen's all like, "Oh, is this true? Come on,
I can't get sued for like slander or anything doing that.
let's be honest here.
How do we know
We're
we're talking about the same George Lucas?
You guys were talking about George Lucas. I was talking about George Perez. So, I love you, George. No, I'm
Amazing
kidding.
artist.
But
Yes.
the point is,
the point is
that he had help.
No, and that's the minimum of it. Like that his wife won the Oscar for best editing,
Yes.
where he did not win for best picture.
Uh-huh.
No. Wait, hey, take a step back here. The other thing too is, if you look at the film, okay, so he had help with the script, which
Yes.
there was a struggle, okay, but also the effects that he wanted, he felt had never been done. He didn't create these special effects.
But he knew what he needed.
He knew what he wanted.
a
yes.
group-
Right.
a gr-
and sorry, go ahead.
No, a group of very talented people.
Very.
Who
Groundbreaking.
Yeah, it was groundbreaking at that time.
Right.
But wasn't
Yes.
the whole idea of the dog fights in space that was kind of
That was his
Lucas's-
love for World War II.
Right,
World War
right,
II movies,
right.
yeah.
And then that's the
And then
again,
Flash Gordon,
and
which is
my
originally
father-
what he wanted to make.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And my father was
right.
a second lieutenant in the Air Force in World War II. He had me later in life, so I'm like my parents were like grandparents. So like that element of what he grew up with was part of my childhood too. So I really related to the dogfight element of
Yeah.
things and looking through the. I knew about bombardiers and those
And
gutter
again,
windows and.
cementing more to the point that it is fantasy because
Yes.
you can't have dogfights in outer space.
Right,
It's
well-
a fantasy.
well,
Yeah,
You
it's going to
can't-
take
yeah.
quite a
Things
while
don't-
to do a bank.
Things would just
Right.
separate in outer space. They don't explode.
Right,
That's
right.
not possible.
big explosion noises.
Right.
Right.
But what I love about that, though, is that it needs to be safe to separate yourself from the science of it and just enjoy a good movie. And every once in a while, I mean, Superman can't fly. And if you're going to obsess about why he can't, you're not going to have any fun. So it's like with Star Wars, like stuff's going to blow up in space because we say in this part of space it can.
Right. Well, and but see, at the time that movie came out, I remember all these hardcore science fiction people like Harlan Ellison coming in there and going, well, there's no sound in space.
Yes.
And you can't bank a
Firefly does a great job of playing with it.
And my thing is that you are missing the point.
Yeah.
As you say, it's creating its own world with its own set of physics. That is fine. The problem that I have with Star Wars, and the part that I don't get about Star Wars after, say, The Empire Strikes Back, is that you got the first one, and the plot is pretty simple.
Yeah.
And
hero's journey.
But it's a hero's journey, but I don't even think that George Lucas, he says all this bullshit about like, oh, it was the hero's journey that inspired him. No, he saw some old movie. He saw some Kurosawa, he saw some old movies and went, oh yeah, the put upon heroes eventually triumph.
I mean,
and that's it. That's really it.
Even the essence of the Force, and there's a lot of stuff in here that
dabbling. Well,
it's like
philosophy.
but you know what? It's all cool and it works. But getting back to the point of not doing it by himself, I mentioned story, the editing. We talked a bit about special effects, and one big major character for me is the music.
Yes.
Now
John Williams.
let me tell you, let me tell you. I saw, and you can find this clip on YouTube. There's a clip of the throne room scene at the end without any music.
Yes.
Complete, and you're watching, going, "Oh my gosh!"
With Bauhaus.
Yeah, no. But from the very beginning,
dead.
Okay, this is great. But at the very
God
beginning,
forbid we have a little fun with Star Wars.
Yeah, I know. But from the very beginning, when you see a long time ago galaxy far, far away, and then that fades out, and then you have the bomb, and then the Star Wars logo comes out. I mean, it grabs you right, and that music is so
it's iconic.
It's so fantastic and great and grand.
Oh my God!
What's fantastic is there's this beautiful CD which has all the Star Wars music on it from the first film. But if you listen to it, if you pass on the second disc, it plays like 27 versions of the opening. Yeah. And the funny thing about the opening is what we all know, the ba da 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 da. That wasn't the first choice. Wow. They did all these different openings, like the music, how to grab people at the beginning. They did like a, and they did all these. They got
that woman who does the Star Trek theme.
No, that's not true. My point is that they did all these experiments to try to find out what is the best way to open this. But the music, I would say, James, you could back me up on this, is it like a character.
Oh my God.
Oh, absolutely.
But if we're going to talk about this, would be a whole topic, like just how John Williams took me from Jaws to Return of the Jedi.
But
over
James,
that span of time.
Yeah.
James, you like John Williams from that point on almost became a star himself.
Sure.
And did a lot of other movies, but before that, he did a lot of other stuff that people don't. He did a lot of the Irwin Allen stuff,
Silent Adventure. He did Towering Inferno, Earthquake. He was like the king of the disaster.
Lost
movies.
in Space.
Yeah, Lost in Space,
a lot of TV
and
stuff.
Land of the Giants too. Yeah,
He's
Johnny Williams.
Back when he was
That's
Johnny
right.
Williams.
Johnny
yeah.
Williams. He's spanned so much stuff that he's been the soundtrack to like my childhood, and I came in way after.
whether you liked it or not.
Still doing it.
Whether I liked it or not. Well, yeah,
That's how he got you up in the morning.
you're not too far off.
Thank God he's around for this sequel trilogy, and I hope he scores the last one.
Yes.
But now, Derek, I don't know if you're like me. When that film came out, the first thing I got that you could purchase was actually the album.
Yeah,
I was
The beautiful black album.
remember that.
I was
opened
forced to take piano lessons as a young boy, and that's the first sheet music I demanded I get. No, so I could learn to play Star Wars. I have it still, the black and white Star Wars logo, John Williams, so I could learn to play Star Wars on the piano.
Oh, that's so great.
Disappointing follow-up. I don't play it very well now. But back
But
then,
that doesn't stop you.
Most things don't, Matt.
You know,
Most things don't.
the wonderful thing about that music is, you know, the album came out, it's 2 records.
Yes.
And you listen to
Yeah.
it, it's a beautiful symphony. It's like, you know, whether it's like you're listening to Tchaikovsky or Beethoven or whatever, it's the all of the music.
Like,
all the-
that movie got me into like soundtrack collecting.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah,
did.
Since
yeah.
we're walking down memory lane, I need to ask you, like, did anybody else here have the story of Star Wars?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That
Not only
thing.
that.
That's the one I had, and that's the one I prefer.
Which has like you could turn the pages of
Yes.
the little like
Yes.
7 or 8 page.
Yes.
like,
I
glossy
love
photo
that.
book. And I played with my action figures to that, and like I had to collect all the action figures so I could fully perform like a tiny Puppetoon
that's so
version.
great.
Who did who was it? James Searle Jones that did the
No.
Who did the?
Roscoe Lee Brown?
It was Roscoe Lee Brown.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Box.
Wow.
And his voice was so commanding, and what I liked was it wasn't a Star Wars voice. You know, it was like the narrator
Right.
explaining what was
Right,
happening.
right.
And the funny thing, Derek, just to let you know,
Yeah.
the first time I heard it, it was on the radio.
Wow.
They made a big deal on the radio. We are going to let you listen to the story of Star
But did
Wars.
you- okay.
And the first time I heard it was on the radio. I recorded it. I recorded on my little tape recorder. I had to flip it over, and that's what I listened to for the longest time until I got the album.
But now we're into a whole other subject. The NPR dramas of the Star Wars, the radio dramas, where they got Mark Hamill and Anthony Daniels, and they expand the
true.
story. Have you listened to those recently? They
No.
actually fully expand the stories from the early. Like you understand.
But do you need to expand the story?
You do because it's
Why?
so cool. Because you find out why the hell.
Who cares?
I care.
Okay. Now
You
look.
find out why Princess
That is
Leia.
No.
Star Wars
Matt.
is the. Come on,
No,
guys.
Matt. No.
Star Wars. The
We
first,
don't need to know why Spock comes
first-
from Vulcan.
Yeah.
No, but because
Okay.
that's interesting.
No.
No, yeah, right. Because
Okay,
it's
okay.
Mr. Spock.
No, I'm with Derek
Well,
here
because
because I know what you're
there's
saying.
a little more thought behind it. Whereas with Star Wars, it's like half the aliens are like, "Rrr, I'm Gugach," and they,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
not as not as complex as the Gorn.
Okay, now listen. I see. We
The Gorn's backstory.
We got into an argument about this.
Wait a minute.
Not the guy who's black and white split down the middle. That's really
Well,
deep.
no, I can't defend that. You're right. When you're right, you're right.
Look, we got into an argument. We got into an argument about this a while back.
and mate.
But it's like I'm with Derek because when you see Empire Strikes Back, Sean's all, oh, Bosk, what does he do? IG-88. Oh, he can't do anything. I want to know.
I wanna
See,
know.
I want to know. I'm with you, Derek.
One of my favorite novels is Tales from the Cantina because it tells you what.
You look at this cool robot.
You know what's great
this
about movies
IG-88.
is how. What's great about a
Tell
movie
me what
is,
he does.
Yeah, but so you have to have some other writer come in and flesh out the half thought out movie and characters that you've put on the screen. That's great.
You just described the entire history of Marvel and DC Comics.
but that's part of what happens.
That's exactly what happens. That other writers come in and fill in backstory, and suddenly
true.
you get
I mean, if you're a
Electra.
fan,
You
you're a
get
fan.
Daredevil.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Take that.
Daredevil's a piece of like he's a goofy character in a yellow and black costume when you first see him, and then somebody else comes in like some loser like Frank Miller, and then suddenly it's a deep and complex character that you can't get enough of.
Have you read his Twitter lately?
Now look. I want to get
Sins
you.
of the Father?
Look,
That's true.
I want
No,
to
that's
get to
great.
the
Yeah.
backstory of IG-88. This robot is cool. He's a badass. He's a mean bounty hunter.
He
gets the chicks.
He's an assassin bounty hunter robot.
An assassin. It's like Sean's. Oh, what does he do? He just kind of turns around. He's like a teapot.
He just
See,
looks like you go push him over.
No, see, because you see him in one scene, and then Bosk. How cool is Bosk?
Bosk is
and
cool.
I want to hear that story.
I passionately had to track down the Black
this.
Series Dengar figure because I needed to complete my 7 bounty hunters.
I need to explain this. People would tell me, I would run into Star Wars fans, and they tell me, all this is so great. And I was the guy who normally heard how shitty Star Trek was compared to Star Wars, which to me, and I know that you guys don't agree with that.
explains a lot,
I know. I got a chip on my shoulder, and it's the size of the Enterprise.
Just for the record, I was never that kind of guy.
And you're not, I know. But what I'm saying is that I would get about how great Star Wars is, and I like Star Wars. I'm telling you, the first Star Wars
like Star
is
Trek.
is like one of my favorite movies of all time. Empire Strikes Back is
Great.
Yeah.
but a
Flawed.
shitty ending. So and then it just completely goes off the rails. And so my thing is like
Until
I
Force
understand.
Hold on to that,
Which
Derek.
I did enjoy, actually.
Go ahead.
But I mean, you have these first two movies that really cement the popularity of Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that those movies, I think it was more the visual element and like I said, the music and everything, all those elements that really solidified this franchise than the ideas of it. Like the look of Star Wars is unbelievable.
Well, before
the Stormtroopers are one of the most beautifully
iconic,
designed characters, I think, of all time.
all the aesthetics of the film were like groundbreaking because you have to remember though, before Star Wars, you still had amazing visual effects films like 2001. Silent Running, great space, but they were not these kind of kinetic, feel good,
right? Hit you viscerally,
just like visceral, good time kind of movies.
Yes.
You know, so like that was the first time like that wave of technology were put to like just for pure
entertainment,
not like, because I mean 2001 holds up still today.
Oh my God,
amazing
beautiful.
effects, but it's not Star Wars. It's not right.
And the other thing between Star Trek and Star Wars is, one is like a series. One is laid out. You get a budget and you got to make that last for like a good amount of time. With Star Wars, it's all individuals because you're paying to see a movie. So Star Trek achieved something incredible for the visuals where they were able to keep this aesthetic consistent throughout.
On a really small budget.
Exactly, on a very small budget.
Comparatively.
You're talking about the TV show.
The original.
And I do understand that when it comes to making a movie, there's a lot of expectations. It can't just, everyone is riding on this is going to be a blockbuster. It's going to make us money. We're going to take all this money that we put into the film and create this spectacle. They want this thing to be better than the last one, which was what got me with Star Wars, which is what I kind of don't understand about the longevity of it, because all I see is diminishing returns.
Well, to back up...
Not the box office.
To back up Matt's point, Derek, I'll ask you this. That NPR radio series for the first two movies, they didn't repeat that for Jedi, did they?
They did do it for Jedi.
Did they?
Yeah, there is a Jedi version, yeah.
Wow. I don't remember it being promoted at
That's
all.
because Jedi is
just to follow in the grand tradition of Jedi.
But here's the thing, though. I want to circle this back to a point because as Owen's joking that I forced him to like Star Wars and Return of the Jedi. It's hilarious. I know. But I want to say, like, how, and this cycles back to the Star Trek conversation. I want to say, like, how much have I still been saying, like, everybody needs to watch Next Generation? That it's as good as Doctor Who, because both my kids are huge Doctor Who fans.
No, I'm kidding.
But I'm saying that I want them to watch that because I love it as well, partially because of what my introduction through you, Matt. But that's a great series that I don't see them as in competition with one another.
They shouldn't be.
And for whatever reason, beyond the great T-shirt that has a picture of the Enterprise and it says #1 Star Wars fan, beyond that...
That's just funny.
But beyond that, I don't see these two in competition, and I don't always understand like why I have to choose between chocolate and vanilla.
Yeah.
They don't seem like they're opposites to me.
You know what? I am totally with you, Derek.
Thank you.
I am one of these people. Because I love both franchises.
Right.
I really do.
And I should be
and the funny thing is, isn't it great? We've said this before. Isn't it great to be living in a time like this where, I mean, when we were kids, we were hoping for something like, a Star Wars film and a Star Trek film, and now we've got all this. It's like, boy, bring it on. Bring on more.
Yeah.
I love it. This is the world that I want to live in.
I still want, and like my favorite joke ever is like, what are the 3 best Star Wars movies? Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Wrath of Khan.
Well, the comparison between Star Trek and Star Wars for me has always been just a level of quality, which has more and better quality. And so my view, and I've tried to be objective with this because I am always rooting for Star Wars. I've seen every single one in the theater.
Yeah, me too.
And I go in there wanting to like them.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know,
Now, if we're-
and I do the same thing with the Star Trek movies. Now, there's some Star Trek films that are complete shit.
Absolute shit.
The restart of the
The reboot
the reboot of the Star Trek movies
with Chris Pine and
those are pretty awful.
But also some of the,
I
some of the
actually
later
like
Next
them a little.
Generation.
The first one is probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
But you know what? I will say this: as I was disappointed with the story, but I liked the cast.
I did like the cast. I
mean,
agree.
I do
I
think
totally
I think
agree.
Chris Pine. I like him.
No,
as
they're all
Kirk.
great.
He's a great
They're all
Zachary
solid.
Quinto. I like him as.
They're all
I mean,
solid.
We've talked before. We brought this
My
up.
friend
where
Carl Urban.
He's great.
Greg
I
McCoy.
love him.
Yeah.
We've talked about how if you look at all the films, all the Star Wars theatrical movies, the batting average of great films in that collection is not great.
yeah.
I'm talking about all
what
the
I'm
movies.
saying is that there's an expectation that's unfairly laid at the feet of Star Wars that Star Trek fans seem
People
to
are
turn a
so hard on Star Wars.
They turn a blind. I'm just saying, critically, they turn a blind eye to how many failures in the Star Trek franchise were for the big screen movies that are just absolute horrible movies.
Derek, let me ask you something because Sean has pinched a nerve here. We've talked about this before, and I want to ask you something. When and it hurts. Let me tell you something. When you and I were younger and we saw Star Wars,
Yeah.
okay, so we're like either 12 or 14 or something. It was a magical time in our lives. We grew up,
Yeah.
From that age. We saw
just at
the
the right
originals.
age.
Okay, then as we got older, you matured. You've seen some more sci-fi. You've expanded. Then you get to, let's say, Phantom Menace in 1999,
Right, and that's what I was gonna bring up.
and then it's like, what I want to know is, because I've struggled with this. Was it something that, gee, I'm not a 12-year-old or 14-year-old anymore, and now I'm an adult and I've got a wife, I got a kid, I got a mortgage.
Let me tell you a
and-
true story
Yeah,
about Phantom Menace because I think I know where you're going with this, and let me just say I think
Should we play some mood music?
please?
Spotlight.
No, come on.
Feels so
Saxophone.
good. I know. I'm just rolling with Matt here. But what I want to say is, back in 1999, I had just gotten married, and
This story. Go ahead.
Derek, I want to hear. Ignore him. I want to know. You
Go
talk to
ahead.
me.
Sorry.
all right. So I just got married, and my sister had a couple kids, and I was like trying to be cool uncle, and I went and I took them 2 movies for my, I want to say he was 6 at the time, and my niece was 4.
Okay, so 6 and 4.
6 and 4, and I had taken my 6-year-old to see the re-release of the special editions
Sure.
of Star Wars when
Sure.
they were in the theater again,
Yeah.
and he loved it.
Sure.
He loved
Sure, I'm
Star
with
Wars
you.
new. So when Phantom Menace came out,
Yeah.
I went and saw it, and then I thought, well, maybe I am jaded.
Yes.
because I'm older now.
Yes.
So I took a copy of Phantom Menace, and I bought his sister a copy of The Iron Giant.
Okay.
And so and this was back in the day of VHS cassettes,
Sure.
so that was my big gift. And so we were sitting there watching Phantom Menace, and I'll never forget, my 6-year-old nephew turns to me with a look of incredulity on his face and said, "Are you enjoying this?" No.
That's awesome.
That's
That's
very
a true
telling.
story.
6-year-old.
6 years old.
It's funny because Lucas has actually said, he goes, you're
You're just too old for this.
No. Well, kind of.
Right.
He said, the kids, it's like people get upset at me and they say, oh, I wrecked their childhood memory with this
Right.
film. It's like, look, the young kids, they love it.
But he loved the original Star Wars, even the special edition, which he didn't know there was a difference. He just went and saw
right.
Star Wars. We
Right.
saw that in the theater, loved it. That's why I thought, here's
This is
the
smart.
new one.
But
Here's when we get to the prequels.
So
That's where I actually feel like I feel sorry
Right.
for Star Wars fans.
yeah, and so we're talking about 1999 through 2005, where you have the Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith.
Correct. Now, these movies, I finally got the taste of Jedi out of my mouth. I'm like, okay, Lucas is back. It's going to be awesome.
He's had plenty of time
He's had
to
time
really
to
deal
think
He's
about it.
completely in
work
control.
It out.
That was the thing.
Yeah.
Totally in
Right,
control.
right.
Now we have all these special effects.
Yes.
And he can really put everything into
Anything
this.
he
I'm
wants
like,
to do.
Ready, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then I get a little of the advanced stuff, about Jar Jar. I'm like, okay, well, maybe it'll be okay. And I'm watching it, and I'm sure we've all gone through this feeling where you're watching a movie and you're just trying to convince yourself that it's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
And then about 10 minutes in, you go, it's a disaster.
But see, okay, but you mentioned Jedi. See, to me, the little cracks started to show in that film.
You're absolutely
because when I saw the
100%.
when I saw those Gamorrean guards, and when I saw all the fucking Muppets,
Oh, the Muppets ruined it.
I'm like,
ruined it.
what the hell? In Ewoks, I'm like, what is? I'm
Okay.
like,
Even Yoda worried me a little bit.
I was like,
I love
okay,
me some
there was
Yoda.
some great stuff in that movie, some great action sequences, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't Star Wars.
No.
This isn't.
I've
isn't
never liked the
Empire.
Muppets,
This is like,
so-
what is he doing? This is too kiddie. Like this is like
1983.
yeah, it was like that. That was disappointing to me. It wasn't like a huge disappointment like the later prequels, but that was like, what is he doing?
Even
no,
before
don't
it
do it.
came
You're
out.
doing it.
It's like he's like just running on fumes.
Yeah,
like he
or-
just wants to barrel through it
He's
and just
like
close
pandering
up
to,
the shop.
pandering to 5-year-olds.
Yeah.
One of the things that was interesting you were saying about we brought back Lucas's wife is that I got to go out to Skywalker Ranch, and it's
I went there too.
well known. Well, I did, and there's these glass doors, these beautiful cut glass doors that are the opening. First thing you walk through going to Skywalker Ranch, and apparently, while he was making Between Empire and Jedi, his wife and him fell apart.
Yes, they did.
And she ran off with the guy that made those glass doors, and that kind of ruined the
Yeah.
relationship between.
They ruined those glass doors.
It ruined Star Wars.
Well, you know,
Let's just
Wow,
say,
interesting.
let's just say, like he
So
wanted
the
to
so the
disassociate a lot
Ewoks
of
were
himself.
spawned out of rage.
No, if I could take
Little
us
bit.
take a step back, okay?
The brood.
He's least
Skywalker.
involved.
So
the
Star Wars.
Star Wars brood.
No, and Dale Pollock talks about this in the book that
Yeah.
writing Star Wars was really difficult, and you have to understand that when Star
Words
Wars,
are hard.
Lucas, well, not only that, Matt, you guys have to remember that we think of Lucas having total creative control. When he was doing Star Wars, he didn't.
I know, right?
You know,
right.
and
yes,
he had to
yeah.
constantly battle with 20th
Yes.
Century Fox. I need a little money for this, and they would be just merciless with him. But I will say this: he had such a bad experience. When you are the director and the writer, he wrote the story. It was exhausting. When it came time to Empire, it's like you kind of had to. It was like the film was Star Wars such a huge success. You got to do Empire, and he said, "Well, there's the 3 stories." When he did Empire, he was adamant. I am not going to direct this.
Yeah,
he got
he
Irv
was-
Kirshner
yeah.
to direct it, who did a beautiful
Genius
job.
choice.
But he was still
Right.
fighting the studio for money.
Yes, but then when it came to Jedi, he used his own money, and it's funny because he's quoted in Dale's book when he actually says when he hired Richard Marquand. Originally, Spielberg was going to
Spielberg
do it,
was
but
gonna
there was
do
an
it.
issue. The issue was there were many issues. One of the issues was there was a battle with the Directors Guild. The Directors Guild didn't like this crap of the director's supposed to be the last credit before you get to the film, and Lucas is all, whoa, we can't do that. That's the film it's the credit Star Wars and then the crawl and they said no, and they were going to blackball. So there's something about Spielberg not being able to do it. So Richard Marquand
I'm
was
sorry, Larry. Spielberg was also busy with E.T. at the
he
time.
was. He was. There is a combination of a bunch of things. But with Richard Marquand, one of the things that he said, he thought Marquand was a very capable director. But the funny thing is, and he says it in the book, that when he handed the directing to Marquand, it was Marquand's movie. It wasn't George's movie anymore.
shows.
And the funny thing is, not to say that Lucas was like the great genius, but he's quoted in the book when he was going through the rushes and he was gritting his teeth going, ugh.
Yeah.
And he said, this should be this way, this should be that way. And so, not to take a lot away from Marquand, but I really think that Marquand and also the pressure of the toy sales,
Yeah, by
the
that point-
studio.
Wait a minute. Wait, whoa. I have a question then.
Sure.
So whose editorial decision or whatever creative decision was it to make it not the Wookiees but the Ewoks?
Now the
was
funny thing,
Kenner.
it was George's. Like George wanted the idea of how the creatures that did not have technology overtook the technological
Okay.
force.
Who came up with the
that was-
Ewoks?
That was
it going to be the
it was
Wookiee
Lucas.
planet? Was it
Okay, well
originally-
that's
it was
terrible.
supposed-
I know I'm not saying that he wasn't totally responsible, but I'm just saying a lot of what we saw, it wasn't completely his. But yes,
Right.
the Ewoks were his, and I remember I worked with friends at ILM
Yeah.
who actually told me, when we saw the Ewoks, we all kind of freaked out.
So was it originally supposed to be the Wookiee?
Fun fact,
Wookiee
yeah,
planet?
that's why
Yes,
it ends up
yeah.
in in Revenge of the Sith. That's why the Battle of Kashyyyk was originally supposed to be the Battle of Endor.
And then,
they rewrote that because the toy sales were paying for everything. So
Jeez.
between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, Kenner there's a great documentary on Netflix, a couple of them, about the making of the toys.
Sure.
The
so
toys
great.
drove this lovely setup. You people at home can't see.
You will.
Well, we'll take photos.
We have we got toys here in the room that just warmed my heart because this is what was funding the movie more than the movie was funding.
Yes.
the
So
movie.
crazy.
No,
And
that's so true.
So Lucas actually started to listen to the people that were making the toys because his heart was broken, I like to believe. And so his only real concern was, how do we pay to get this stuff done?
And it's funny you should say that. That's why you see those Gamorrean guards. That's why you see a ton of the Muppets, Salacious Crumb, all of these things. And look, I'm one of the guys who I spent the night outside the theater with a
Really?
sleeping bag to see
Oh
the
my
first
gosh.
screen. And I remember I spent the night with a bunch of friends. We were outside, and it was so uncomfortable. I was so excited. I loved the first one, loved the second one. And the funny thing is, when I saw the third one, I wasn't sure.
Jedi or Sith?
Jedi. Jedi.
What was it like when you after the movie you're walking out? What was that feeling?
I'll tell you.
I wanna know.
No, I'll tell you my feeling.
I'll bet it was similar.
My feeling, Sean, was this. I wasn't sure. I felt that I didn't enjoy it as much, and I wasn't sure.
You didn't want to believe it. It's like,
Yes, Sean. I
You're
didn't
trying to
know.
talk yourself into. Like,
Yes,
I think I like that.
No, Matt, you're absolutely right because I wasn't sure. Maybe it's because I didn't get a lot of sleep, sleeping out on the cement.
Right.
No, we're all
Maybe you
laughing.
just hallucinated
I had
the whole thing.
No,
Sure,
I had a sleeping bag, but
That
you're on a
would've
cement floor, and I was like in a row. There were a bunch of people, people
Yeah,
camping out with tents and stuff. We were all excited. I was hungry for it, man. I wanted to see it.
And because up to that point, I'll tell you, like that late 70s, early 80s was like golden time for me too. Movie because like it was a time when like you went to see a movie like Star Wars, and it was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And you see, Superman, oh my god, this is amazing. Then you see
Superman.
Raiders, oh my god, this is amazing.
Yeah.
You see Empire, oh my god, this is amazing.
Yeah,
It was like there was no
no making a bad movie
beautiful
anymore.
world, you know,
right.
And and it was maybe naive to think like that, but you
Sure.
thought, oh, I guess all genre movies that I'm into are going to be great and perfect.
Yeah,
you know?
each one is going to be
And, like,
better than
it's-
the last.
Yeah, that's what and then Jedi came and it's like, oh man, it's big.
Here's my thing about Jedi, and that is this whole idea that like, oh, you got Lucas gritting his teeth of how I wanted to do this, but I had to make all these concessions to the toy companies. I haven't done all the research you guys have, but when I do a little time travel and go from there to Phantom Menace, and I look at what was in Phantom Menace,
true.
I call bullshit on that. I think that George Lucas had all kinds to
When
do
he has
with
carte blanche to do whatever he wants.
but I think that with the Gamorrean guards and all that, and the Psy Snoodles or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
like all that stuff is so terrible.
Yeah. Right.
And like the whole Jabba the Hutt scene, except for some design, like I love the design of Jabba the Hutt.
Princess Leia.
And Princess Leia, forget it. That should have been the movie.
I'm wearing my Slave
yeah,
Leia costume.
Where
right
is
now.
that spin-off film? The Slave Leia days.
Yeah, really.
But to go from that and like that whole Jabba the Hutt sequence to the what is it, the Sarlacc?
Sarlacc. Yeah.
What is it?
Sarlacc.
Sarlacc. The Sarlacc
The
pit.
the Sarek.
The Sarek pit. The pit of ultimate logic.
Yeah.
That whole thing is just a giant waste of time that's so dull and anticlimactic.
Yeah.
And even the action scenes are like
And yeah, it's kind of goofy and happens too easily.
and
it's
let's-
goofy,
and let's be
there's
honest.
forced comedy,
Let-
and then
is.
poor Boba Fett.
I know.
And
Who
we've
we've
ta-
been waiting to.
Yeah,
we
he's
want-
badass.
Yeah, let's go.
The other thing too about that, and it's always irritated me, and we see it in Jedi, it's where instead of the Force being such a significant thing, it's like Boba Fett, an accident. Han Solo turns and accidentally hits something on Boba Fett
it's
that makes
wacky.
it. And this is
Yeah,
when
right,
this
yeah,
is where we
exactly.
start the
Yeah.
accidental stuff.
It's like
Right.
Inspector Clouseau.
Which
like what went
is
wrong
all
with
over-
Superman
all over
3.
Phantom Menace.
Yes.
Which
Richard Lester is suddenly
which we'll get to. Which we'll get
But
to.
you're
in a
right.
minute.
Yeah, there's so many
And-
accidental
Yeah.
comedy battle
Yeah. And the-
parts in Phantom Menace.
and the funny thing
that
is-
can't be on accident.
No, and the
Yeah.
funny thing is, Boba Fett is one of the coolest,
I
badass
know.
looking figures.
I know.
Once again, design just
wasted.
beautiful.
And once we go back, going forward, I guess, when we go forward and they redid all the VFX for all those Star Wars movies, wasn't it Lucas who had like the executive pointer on that?
Yes.
And those
right.
those
Yes.
CGI things look terrible.
Terrible. I know.
My nightmares when I was a kid came from those.
Even
And
at
the
the time,
beatings.
even at the time even when you saw them in the theaters when like CGI was new and you kind of like would buy it more, it was still not right. It stood out.
It feels like it's been
Feels
plugged in there.
fake,
It
yeah.
feels fake. It's muddy. Like
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
so much going on that like, hey, no. What's great about Mos Eisley is that it's barren.
Yeah.
and that there's like this backwater.
this, like,
it's not
bustling
like they're building a
metropolis.
casino in the
Yeah.
in like
Feel danger.
in the special edition.
Where's
It's like,
the-
what are these guys making?
Where's
Like
the
a-
scum and villainy? It's all
Yeah,
like
we don't
clean
have
up.
time for that. We're making a Ralph's.
Yeah.
It's funny you
terrible.
should say that. I understand that there were things that he wanted to do in original Star Wars that he couldn't. So then when he had all the money and he says, I'm going to go back and fix that. You know
Fix
what?
it.
He was better off without the money.
And the funny thing is,
Yeah.
I don't need that.
Right.
And the funny thing is, one of my most cherished items is I actually have a VHS of original
Yeah.
Star
Right,
Wars.
yeah.
Yeah.
A
Right.
VHS.
I got the 16
yeah.
by 9s.
And since then, it has been fans who have found either work prints or this or that and have created online. And I know there's a big controversy about this. The original Star Wars that Derek,
Right.
you and I saw when we were kids.
Disney would
That's
make
great.
another gazillion dollars
Well,
if they just put that out.
and
on
here's,
their
That's
and
true.
here's what
Clean
I'm
it up.
thinking.
Just
no,
clean it
this
up.
is what I'm
That's all.
thinking. It's gonna happen,
It will.
and I'll
It
tell
will.
you what.
Tick,
you know,
tick, tick.
I talked about this on a previous episode. Sorry, Sean. But there was a film festival in Santa Monica where they were showing films of the 70s, and they put in a request to Lucasfilm. They said, can we get a copy of original Star Wars to show, because we're showing all these original films? And they said, sure, we can give you this. And they go, oh, no, not the special edition. We want original Star Wars. And they said, oh, it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I believe that they do. They do exist.
Oh, they
Just give it time. Fans like us, we
It exists somewhere.
They know that fans like you and I are to see a beautiful, clean Blu-ray of original Star Wars where it just says Star Wars.
Yeah,
no
he
episode
did the
4.
same thing with THX 1138, which is so great originally, but the only version you can get now is with added special effects.
I would argue that at least it works a little bit. There's
little
only
bit.
so much. There's
Yeah.
only so much he can ruin in THX
Yeah.
138.
But still, why? I still
But
would
why?
like to
But
have
why?
it. Yeah.
Go make a new movie.
Yeah,
Leave
yeah.
your movie was fine.
On the flip side, though, even though the original version's not accessible, now in this day and age, we have access to just about all the deleted scenes. In
those are
the
cool to
original
see.
trilogy.
Right.
Especially from A New Hope.
I'm
Especially
still
from-
baffled
Right.
by why the big scene has never been part of a cut. Apparently, it's just isn't a very good scene. But
what's
Oh,
your-
Biggs?
there, Biggs and a Big Star.
Yeah,
Wars.
it's
There's
not-
a whole thing like
Yeah.
if you see the original, like the way it was originally meant to be cut. Luke is out working on a moisture evaporator, and he looks up and he's got like a Gilligan's Island kind
Yeah.
of hat and goggles.
Right.
And he looks up and he sees a space battle going on, and you see it through his binoculars, and then he runs to see his friends in Tosche Station, which he'll later reference to Uncle Owen, like, I wanted to go get power converters. Well, you actually go see what Tosche Station is about, and there's 4 characters that we never see in the actual Star Wars canon, where he's got somebody and they call him Wormy. Like he's like this nerdy, it's almost like American Graffiti. He's the
Yeah.
Richard Dreyfuss
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
Right.
totally.
And
Or Toad.
They call him what they call him Wormy. And so there's a whole thing where and then Biggs is back, and like Biggs was like the I don't know, the Harrison Ford in American Graffiti character. Where he's like the cool guy that can drive the cool car, but Luke looks up to him, and he's got a cape like Lando.
And he's the fast
Yeah.
spaceship too.
And he talks about like, hey, I actually didn't go to the Empire. I'm working with the Rebellion now. Don't tell anyone. So you get all that set up, and then
Idiot.
But then later on. But then later on, when they reunite right before the Battle of the Death Star, and he dies in that battle. Spoilers. It's actually more heartbreaking.
It makes more of an impact.
It's more of an impact because there's a backstory to that character.
It makes it more personal for Luke,
Right,
too.
because ultimately what you see in the original Star Wars is that he runs into him a few minutes before. You don't even know who Biggs is,
No.
but
Right.
he's like, "Hey, good to see you again," and then he dies. And you go, "Oh,
Right.
Right.
I think maybe it was cut because the only reason that Lucas filmed it was because it took too long. The initial thought was that it took too long to introduce Luke as the main character, and that's why he went ahead with that. But I don't think he was ever really in love with those scenes.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned Biggs. I want to know the backstory of Porkins.
yeah."
And for listeners who aren't really sure who that is, it's the chubby guy guy in the
Who's a hell of a
X-wing.
star
Porkins.
pilot.
And yeah,
Porkins.
yeah,
His last name was
Porkins.
Rhines.
Yeah, and
Porkins.
poor Porkins is like the first guy to eat it, you know,
yeah.
and
Eat
in
it.
well, you know, in outer space, and you
Porkins,
go, you know,
chub eater. I believe is his full.
but you know, I
third
wonder.
Esquire.
No, but I wonder. Did Porkins get this because he's one of those guys? Well, he knew how to fly an X-wing.
He had trouble getting the thing off the ground.
No, but it's like, look, the rebels like, hey, we'll take anyone. We can't take anyone.
Did someone
hey,
push?
You know how to fly an X-wing? Yeah, I've dabbled with it. Okay, can you fit in the seat? Yeah, I can fit in the seat. Oh, it's a little tight. But I want to know the Porkins backstory.
I bet you there is a whole novel.
I'm sure there is.
You know,
Too bad you get
I
Muppets.
can live without that. I feel like I can go to my grave okay with not knowing Porkins.
All right, I want to
what he had in the cantina before the big mission.
just want to interject two things. Like one,
Yeah.
fun fact. David
better be
Lynch.
fun.
David Lynch was up for directing
That's
Return
right.
of the Jedi.
Yes,
Cronenberg.
yes,
And I would
yes.
love
Cronenberg too.
Can you imagine?
I want the David Lynch Return
he
of
would
the
have
Jedi.
saved that movie. A Star Wars movie with body horror.
You'd have Princess Leia give birth to a mutated Ewok.
Sure.
Oh,
been
It's
awesome.
Leia's rage.
Yeah.
Okay.
That She
been
can't
awesome.
figure out who she loves, her
Yeah.
brother
Okay.
or Han.
No.
Heads exploding everywhere.
Okay. All right. This is very funny.
Ewoks and Jar Jar just glued together to make the most annoying thing
Okay,
possible.
so
man.
Owen,
Wow.
because I know
That is a
you're-
horror movie.
You know, you're young, and I get it.
wow.
Jar Jar comes much later.
That wasn't condescending enough.
Which is, you know, we've talked a lot about that Star Wars, the first three. Let's jump.
But wait. Before we move on from special editions.
One other fun
Special
fact.
editions.
Yeah.
All right.
Nobody has ever lined up and slept overnight for a Star Trek film. Fact.
Oh, really?
Star Trek movies, nobody's ever lined up and camped out. overnight.
Actually, you
Really?
guys might be
There was a
surprised.
camp out?
Star Trek 4. Star Trek
did
4.
too?
Well, I
in
don't.
Times
First,
Square.
can I just point out? I don't line up and sleep for any fucking movie. People who do that are fucking mental.
You are absolutely right, and I just wanted to get your
Because you know what? Because you know what
somehow
they
surprised.
You know, after that first screening, they changed the movie. They changed the movie, so the second screening of it's completely different. So you got to go to see that very first screening. Wait a week. Wait for the
Right.
crowds to die down a little bit. Go in there at leisure, well rested, ready to enjoy a shitty Star Wars movie.
Okay, so
But wait a minute, I have another thing. Wait a minute. We're talking about special edition,
yes.
okay?
Right.
This is what I would like to have seen, and it's a fan film that almost fits perfectly within the original Star Wars movie, and that is the fan film Troops.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
Troops? Do you know Troops?
Yes, I
Yeah.
do. Which you can find on YouTube very easily.
Troops is
Look that up later.
brilliant.
That was like one of the first kind of like, fan made, but like
yeah,
really well
it
done.
kind of was one of the
short
first
parodies.
films that kind of get that whole wave going.
Yeah.
Tell our listeners what Troops
Well,
is.
it's really a parody of Cops.
Yes.
The TV show Cops, but instead of there being cops, it's the stormtroopers, and
Yes.
specifically it's the stormtroopers from the first Star Wars film.
Yeah.
And so you get them interacting with the Jawas.
They're on Tatooine.
And they're on
making their
Tatooine.
rounds.
They're on Tatooine, and you've got Aunt Beru.
Yeah.
And if you've never seen it, that's a spoiler I don't want to give away. But it's lovely.
Yeah,
it's
it's well done.
so great, and it's done with love. The special effects are great. It's funny without being too hit you on the head over the top.
No, it's well done. Yeah.
And I think if you cut that into Star Wars, it would fit perfectly.
right.
I would watch it and smile the whole time.
And then before we move on, the big controversy with Return of the Jedi 2 is if everyone remembers, when the title came out, it was Revenge of the Jedi.
Yeah,
That's right.
And
Which is why we got Revenge of the
What was the
Sith.
problem again with that?
Well, the first thing was there was a movie that was scheduled to come out called Star Trek 2: The Vengeance of Khan. It was
Wrath of Khan.
no, the Wrath of Khan. It was going to be called The Revenge of Khan, I think. And
Oh, I didn't know that.
Really?
so
Is that
what
true?
they decided to
Khan
do
was
is they
80.
said, you know what? There's Revenge of the Jedi. We got to change the title. So they changed it to The Wrath of Khan, which is actually better.
But I thought it was because
That's the
thought
second.
Khan was
That's the
1980.
This is the second thing. The second thing is Jedi's aren't supposed to seek revenge.
Right.
Wrath
So-
of Khan was 80 or 81.
It was 82. It's 82. Yeah.
And so when-
yeah.
so-
yeah.
and-
But you understand that the title
Yeah.
for Revenge of the
No, that
Jedi
would
was
make-
already
that would make
was
sense if it
already,
was all tangled up with
yeah,
that.
it was already there.
We already had Star
I see-
Trek,
I see
Star
what you're
Wars.
saying.
And
Okay.
so Lucas said that, well, we changed it because a Jedi can't, seek revenge, which is, whether you believe it or not, or whether it was
Call
a
it what
marketing,
you want.
yeah,
Whatever helps you
exactly.
sleep at night.
Now, I am one of the few people that has an original Revenge of the Jedi
Nice.
poster.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's exciting.
And
Especially if it's an original.
And it's it is. It is
that's hard to
original.
find.
Yeah,
Wow,
it is. It
that's
is hard
great.
to find. So Revenge of the Jedi. We've talked about this. Let's jump to the next round.
But by 1999, there's now another generation
Okay.
of
Yeah.
fans, right? Because it had built, and there had been like things like Troops, and the toys kept going.
Yeah,
right?
for
I mean,
years.
The toys were rebooted around 95, which is what actually reignited an interest in the films.
Right.
I remember that long, dark, desert-like period where between Return of the Jedi and about the time the toys were rebooted and they put out the special editions to
Right.
kind of ramp up interest
Right.
in a Phantom Menace. But there was a long period where like nobody cared about Star Wars and it was like fading away like Battlestar Galactica.
Right.
And that I
That's not
remember
true.
that. No, I was at San Diego Comic-Con in like 93 at the height of the whole Image. The Image had just broken off from Marvel, the 7 guys, and there was a mad line. This is like a fond memory for me when people lined up for comic book people. But they were mad.
And that never happens anymore.
It does not like it used to. Thank you very much. But that's a whole other topic. But there was massive lines to meet the Image guys, and I went over to talk to my friend Fabian, who was waiting to.
Fabian.
You remember Fabian?
I
This
love
year?
Fabian.
The best guy ever.
The greatest guy.
Greatest guy, co-creator of Deadpool, good friend of mine.
Lovely man.
So he was over there signing with those guys, and I was waiting for him to get done so we could go hang out. And I walked away from the booth because it was so madcap. And I happened to be walking away over. This is back when San Diego Comic-Con was just a Comic-Con, and against a wall, I could just see this 3-foot Darth Vader statue. And I'm like on a table and a guy sitting there and I'm like, is somebody selling these? And I made my way over, and as I got closer, I saw a bunch of 8x10 glossies of Darth Vader and some from Clockwork Orange. And I looked at the statue, which was the only one there, and I looked at the guy, and it was David Prowse, and there was nobody talking to him, and there was no waiting.
That's
And-
amazing.
And I was like, are you David Prowse? And he said, yes. And he's a lovely guy. And we talked for at least half an hour because I had a million questions for him. And I said, I wanted to see you because you came and did an appearance at a theater in San Carlos back in the 70s for one of the re-releases of Star Wars.
Okay.
I think it might have just been a guy in a Darth Vader costume, but I was a kid, so I
Sure,
thought it
sure.
was
Right, yeah.
But at the time, but I was like, I thought I was going to get to meet you, but he's a lovely fellow and told me a whole lot about. And the one question I had for him at the time was, looking back, did anybody have any idea of the lightning in a bottle that you guys were creating? He said, "Oh my God, no, nobody more than Alec Guinness." He hated this thing. And he was just dishing because nobody was
so funny.
talking
Why
to
would,
him.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, why would you hate it? It's like the easiest job in the world.
Oh, he just thought it was beneath him.
Well,
Well, I
no,
could see that though.
and also-
I could
Bridge
see-
over River Kwai
Yeah,
to
I mean,
he's an
and the
amazing-
Force be with you.
low budget space
In
movie
fact-
with like
Yeah, no, I mean,
monsters.
yeah.
In fact,
And
get
as Harrison
this.
Ford is famous for saying, George, you can write this stuff, but you sure as fuck can't say it.
Yeah.
It's funny that he should say that because Alec Guinness, Lucas convinced him to be in it before he saw a finished script.
Uh-oh.
And then Lucas,
Oops.
when after the wife talked to him, hey, let's kill off the Ben Kenobi character, Lucas had to tell Alec Guinness, oh, so your character dies, and Guinness flipped out.
Really?
I would think he
Apparently-
would love that.
No,
I heard he was
no,
grateful.
he was pissed. He was pissed, and he decided, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
James, what do you
and
think?
I hadn't heard that.
Was he mildly perturbed?
It's in the book.
It's in Skywalker.
It's
Okay.
in your book.
And it took convincing and possibly money that convinced Guinness to do it. Okay, and look, it's like to him, it's a one-off. He's going to do the
Right.
damn
Yeah,
thing.
Because if he'll walk off and do
Yeah,
all those
yeah.
other Alec Guinness
He did it.
films that were all
And-
lined
Did it
up
the
for him.
paycheck.
How many B movies was Peter Cushing doing at the time?
Well, see, that's
sure,
the thing is,
but yeah.
does anyone have any knowledge of what Peter Cushing thought of Star Wars?
The
Or
only thing I know about Peter Cushing is he had a lovely time filming it,
Yes.
but he had an issue with the boots. And he actually, and there's a scene where you see him in his boots, but when you don't see him with the boots, it's from the waist up. He told George, he goes, these boots are killing me.
in
Can I take?
flip-flops.
No, he's in
Crocs.
It's slippers, I believe it was. He wore little
Oh, man,
slippers.
that's a great work day.
Yeah.
So
want that
he,
photo.
he orders the destruction of Alderaan while wearing slippers.
That's my next
Wearing
custom
dark-
action figure.
Wearing Darth Vader slippers.
The other thing, and the other thing that a lot of people know is that obviously we know that David Prowse's voice of Darth Vader,
Right.
that's not the voice.
If you've ever seen that footage, it's
We
hilarious.
have the wonderful
yeah.
and George wisely and always intended to have a different actor do the voice.
Did Dave Prowse know that?
No.
No,
No,
he
did not.
didn't.
That was
Really?
a conversation. that we
And
had.
then when he found out, he didn't realize that they were going to use James Earl Jones for the first film. When it came to the second and the third film, what a lot of people don't know was Prowse was so pissed off that he started not doing the lines. He started to say other stuff. And he started to say, like, he would, like,
Where's that footage?
He would use profanity or something and something
wow.
because he was so bitter. This is the story that I heard.
Yeah.
That's also documented.
No, that's
but
accurate.
I
I heard it from the horse's mouth
Yeah.
because I would end up running into David Prowse at other conventions and
Really?
talk to him.
That
some
is
more.
fascinating to me because I don't remember any time where there wasn't a big thing for Star Wars.
Yeah, it happened.
But it
And
was
that's
that's the one
amazing.
pocket of time that after that kind of it stayed pretty steady, right? I mean, it
Well,
seemed
once
like
it got revived, it really
It just
took
kept
fire
going.
again.
Right,
So, but it
right.
was this weird desert.
If
Between
that was the
83
table for Dave Prowse,
like a 10-year
then what was
window.
Porkins' table?
All right.
Although,
Weirdly larger.
speaking of
He's in the
Comic-Con,
parking lot.
I had this moment in London, just an anecdote. I had this moment in London where 10-year-old me was at a convention and I was in a green room because I'm the comic guest where most everybody else is film and TV guest.
Sure, yeah.
And it was just... But it was funny because I'm kind of keeping to myself. I don't know anybody. I'm just sort of there in the
Yeah,
group.
you don't want to be that
right.
guy.
I'm not that
Right.
guy. And so I'm just standing back and getting a coffee and a water, but I'm looking around the room and I make eye contact with like Christopher Lloyd's there as a guest. That's the one I brought you all the stuff from.
Oh, yeah.
So but I looked at Christopher Lloyd and he smiled at me and I'm like, that's nice. And but then I look over at this table and I realized there's Boba Fett, Darth Vader, and R2-D2 sitting having breakfast at this little table, and I'm like, 14-year-old me would have just been like,
And none of them know who each other is.
oh no, they're all. I ended up sharing a car with Jeremy Bullock, who played Boba Fett.
Oh, that's cool.
And he's lovely.
That's
and
awesome.
we would, but
he has
it-
no choice but to be lovely.
Well, I know. At the same time, like kind of, it got to a point where like, oh, it's Jeremy in the elevator.
That's
oh,
cool.
it's Jeremy in the hallway.
Yeah.
This is- got the room
Larry and
across
I-
from me.
Yeah.
Larry
He
and I-
really inhabits that costume.
He's a sweetheart. No, but he again another guy that likes.
I'm
to
sure he's great.
James?
I'm just saying.
shared a car with Q
that,
too.
He of all people, he should be really mad. Because that character got so shortchanged.
I totally
It's,
agree.
it's,
Did
it's
many
a tragedy.
characters.
Yeah.
But James has a very special story.
Larry and I were at San Diego Comic-Con and shared an elevator with David Prowse.
Ooh,
Which is- we didn't have any words to exchange with him, but it's just one of the things that you love about Comic-Con.
But the weird-
Did he didn't carry you off?
No, see, but here's the funny
Like
thing.
Clockwork Orange?
There was something very profound about seeing him in the elevator. When I think of David Prowse and Darth Vader, the big, majestic guy who's really strong. But remember, James, what was he doing? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
He had the two canes.
Yeah.
He was,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
Well,
And
that's-
Peter
that's
Mayhew
like
also.
even, you know, it's
Right,
like,
right.
well, even Darth
Rest
Vader
in
gets a
peace.
little old.
And was it kind of one of those like tall person's
Yeah.
disease?
Yes.
Same with
Well,
Peter Mayhew.
With Peter Mayhew.
May
He had
you
to go-
rest in
Richard
peace.
Keel,
Mayhew
right?
had to go
Richard
around
Keel
in a.
would
Yeah.
have Kane too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So look, we've talked about
But
the.
I'm just one more thing
Yes,
about
please.
Comic-Con. Sorry. There were two unsung heroes of the first Star Wars. One of them, Charles Lippincott, who had been Lucas's marketing director, who had also done a little work on Jaws. He was the very first person to ever do a movie panel at Comic-Con in San Diego.
Oh, interesting.
And
Really?
this was in '76, and he was trying to get fans eager about it. And this
Really?
was before anybody, like Comic-Con was still small at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Howard Chaykin did a poster for that as now was a giveaway and now one of the most collectible
Yeah.
Star Wars items you
Oh,
can
wow.
get.
Is
that right?
Yeah,
Really?
and it's like it ended up like being kind of a prelim for what would be the Marvel Comics Howard Chaykin cover that was on Marvel Comics Star Wars #1.
Okay.
But Howard did that original piece, and that's when the logo is triangular. Yeah, but that thing, if you have one of those prints, ooh, you got money.
Wow.
That's one of the most sought after collectibles.
And the other one was Ralph McQuarrie, because
My hero.
None of
that
the,
is my real hero.
None of the
Star
executives
Wars.
could picture anything until Lucas brought in McQuarrie's
That's true.
illustrations, and
That's
then
true.
And he
got
really
their
is
interest.
unsung.
John Williams and Ralph McQuarrie are probably the main reason I love Star Wars more than anybody else.
But don't you think, again, it's kind of like a perfect storm of just like, it was like you said, lightning in a bottle. It just, all the different creative elements and forces behind it all just kind of meshed together to make this movie.
You know, the opening crawl was originally twice the length.
Really?
And you know who cut it down for Lucas?
His wife?
Marsha?
Brian De Palma
Brian De Palma.
and film critic Jay Cox.
Wow.
Because he
Really?
was
They
close
just said it
with
was
De
too
Palma at
long.
the time, and De Palma was close with Cox.
I remember
so they
De
came
Palma
on.
being pretty critical of the first print of it or whatever. He
first cut.
screened it, right?
Yeah, he's like, where's the blood?
Where's the blood?
But apparently I'd heard, like, I don't know who else it was, but like a lot of his peers, weren't crazy about it, but like I think Spielberg is the only one who thought, this is going to be something, but like the others like thought this was like,
And
this is not
they were
gonna
all
work.
hanging out with each other back then.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
well,
of course,
Easy Riders, Raging Bulls.
Well, a lot of
and
these
everybody
good
knows
times.
that Carrie, De Palma's Carrie, was being cast at the same time that Star Wars was being cast.
Right.
So you had, the same actors reading for both.
I've seen those
movies.
audition tapes. Yeah,
Like William Catt.
William Catt tried out for Han Solo. Kurt Russell tried
That
out,
was up for Luke.
or for Luke. Kurt
And
Russell
Russell's up
for Han Solo.
Yeah.
He would have been great as
Opposite
Han
each
Solo,
other.
actually.
You can find those auditions on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cindy Williams tried out
Right,
for
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 Leia.
Princess Leia. But it's fascinating to see all the different
Yeah,
people.
no, definitely.
I love it. Yeah, they almost, and Robbie Benson was almost Luke Skywalker.
Wow.
And there was, and Al Pacino read for Han Solo. Yeah, true.
What?
And then,
Where's that?
It's out there. I don't know if it's on film. But it's out there. But no. But there's a great, and Christopher Walken was up for Han Solo. Babu. Yeah, and Kevin Spacey did a great impression of.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right.
Oh, I
That's
remember
classic.
that. Yeah, that's really funny.
But that's
funny,
actually
yeah.
true. Like Walken read for Han Solo as well.
Wow.
And that would, I actually have a T-shirt of him saying, "Fast ship." You've never heard. I'm the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, speaking of Han Solo, to kind of circle back to the first film again, is the Han shot first.
Oh,
Change.
That's a huge
That
mistake.
whole thing with special editions, that's in a crux of what like the problem was.
I
with
want
the
to know
special
what
editions.
I want to know what Owen thinks.
What I think of that?
Yeah.
Now, which one did you see first?
I had the displeasure of seeing the not Han shot first one.
Really?
Okay.
Greedo
And did you, when
Yeah,
you saw
Greedo
that
shot
scene, did it seem
Weird
to you?
Yes,
It
yeah.
shot.
Well, like, how the hell can he miss?
Is,
First of all,
Yeah. Well, he's like sitting like right across.
yeah, and the cinematography.
Probably
is
because I
weird.
was howling through it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I
Weeping.
mean, actually, you were weirdly quiet for that. I think you wanted me to experience that for myself, which I appreciate it. Yeah, no, that scene was so weird. I didn't know what happened the first time. I think
Right,
when
right.
Yeah,
because
it's
I
hard
was
to
like,
follow.
Yeah. When I was like 7, when I think I saw that scene and actually remember it, the explosion happens behind Han, and it's
Yeah.
like, what did something go off in the corner? It's
Isn't,
like,
isn't
yeah,
Greedo
what?
supposed to be a trained killer?
Yeah,
assassin?
he is
Yeah.
he's an assassin. He's a hitman for Jabba, who has been built up to be this big guy. You
Right,
know,
right.
you wouldn't
Yeah.
let this kind of slip up happen.
Yeah.
And then he misses on the first shot, and I remember seeing I don't remember where I saw it, but I saw the original, and it makes so much more sense because during that whole conversation too, Han has the upper hand the whole time. It gets to the point where Greedo's desperately threatening this guy, and Han is just being Han, sitting there cool.
Yeah.
It's like
Right.
I have strong feelings about that scene, regardless
It's
of what.
it's terrible.
You're not
You-
the only
you-
one, Owen. You're not the only one.
You really called it when you said it seems like something has short-circuited
Yeah.
behind those guys, Seeing that remastered, re-envisioned sequence, it took me a second to even figure out what had just happened.
Yeah.
It's also the most egregious example of him not just prettying up the film. He's changing the characters and the plot.
story. Because you go back to that, I was saying earlier,
That's Spielberg, too.
How Star Wars felt like a grindhouse movie, and there's a great build-up, like an old western, in that scene,
Sure.
where you see Han slowly unclip his blaster,
Yes.
and then you
Yes.
see his hand return to the blaster. Like they keep alluding to what Han's gonna do, and then when Greedo says, maybe we'll just take your ship. And Han says, over my dead body. And he goes, well, that's the idea. And then, bam.
I've been waiting for this for a long
That's
time.
the
Under
first
the
shot.
table.
That's the first shot. The verbal
Exactly.
is the first
And
shot.
because he's a badass, that's what he's gonna do.
They build up the tension the whole time, and then
And he's
There's
already-
also-
And that's when you know what you're in for with Han fucking Solo.
It also sets up redemption.
Right.
Yes.
That we get to
Right, of
see that
course.
he becomes a better person.
That's right.
The first thing you hear when he and Luke are going off about religion is like, nothing like a good blaster at your side.
Right,
I've
right.
been both ends of this galaxy, and no hokey religion is as good as this.
Right,
You
yeah.
know, and that's Han. And so when he actually says right before Luke goes in battle, hey, may the force be with you.
Oh.
That's a huge leap.
Huge.
Your
That's true.
heart soars.
yes.
And then he shows up.
Yes.
Right.
Spoilers. To,
Yes. No, I'm with
in
you.
the
I'm with you
trench,
there.
And he's actually back to
I
help out.
cheered.
I'm getting chills just recounting
I
that.
flipped
Yeah.
out at that
One
moment.
of the greatest
The
moments
first time
in
you
a
saw
movie
that in the
ever.
theater, like, oh
like
my god,
you
Yeah.
feel joy
Yeah,
from
it's
head to
tingling.
toe.
and so it's sad that he had to. Lucas felt like, I can't have Han Solo shoot first. I'm not going to do
Right, 'cause
that.
the
He
ridiculous-
changed-
the little
and the
kids will
weird,
be
the
scared.
weird thing is that sequence was redone like 3 different times.
Seriously?
What happened is the first time that he does it, they do this fast thing where you see the explosion in the back, and it seems like there's a gap. And then they changed it because of the complaints where we have to make it seem like Han doesn't shoot first, but he shoots like really fast because Greedo shoots really fast. So there's a second version.
You mean
Yeah.
Well, you mean that it was released one way and then
They did another
my
one.
It
They did another,
completely takes
and,
away.
And
God.
but the whole point of this conversation is you don't need it because Matt, you bring it up. It's the redemption. You have to have Han
Yeah.
shoot
it
first.
completely takes away from his character arc.
Totally.
Because the thing is Han shooting first shows how cold he is, how hard he
Right.
is.
Yeah.
The way he
It
lives.
is.
The way he lives his life on the edge. And it's all about him becoming this softer, more caring person at the end of it. That first scene really establishes him as the cold-blooded killer that he starts the movie as.
Right.
And
Yeah.
this whole redemption, it just takes away. If it's Han shooting as a reaction to Greedo, that's like, oh, he shot out of self-defense,
Right.
I'd shoot out of self-defense. Han Solo wouldn't.
Sure, right, yeah. You give my mom a gun, and then you spill something on her rug,
right. She's gonna shoot first.
yeah,
But you also recognize
and second.
But you also recognize in that moment though that who is Luke and Obi-Wan putting their trust into? Because
Right.
like there's a lot of moments between there and the Death Star where, hey, are these guys going to get thrown under the bus? Are they going to get sold
Sure,
out?
yes,
Because
yeah.
this guy is ruthless. This
Right.
guy will do whatever he needs to do to
And
protect
that's
his own skin.
drama.
And that's tension.
And
that's great.
Which by the time you got to Jedi, he was like, he's the fumbling wacky guy.
Right.
He's gonna be fine. He's not gonna hurt you.
it's me.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. You just, I know. All right, so let's.
Who's
let's
All right,
Scruffy
so
looking.
so now where were we
if
at?
you jump to 1999,
I wanna
we've seen
jump to
the special
99.
edition.
99,
Wait,
okay.
but
'Cause
what?
I have thoughts on this.
But how does B. Arthur fit into the Star Wars canon?
Well, we did have
Right
to
between my ass
We did
crack.
have to talk about this a little bit.
Oh, by far, that
Yeah.
is not because it's good, but that is my favorite thing of Star Wars media ever. The holiday special.
Now,
You know what? And I could see that because you're farther away from it.
I am
Yeah,
farther away
yeah.
from it. I'm also one of those so bad it's good kind of guys. I love The Room and just all those.
The Room is
sure.
genius.
The Room is geniusly
But
terrible.
Imagine like being your age
Yeah.
in 1978
Yeah.
and finding out that there's going to be a 2-hour Star Wars
special.
special on
Thing
TV.
you
Excited.
love.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then B. Arthur
And then you
shows
get
up.
Art Carney,
Harvey
B. Arthur.
Korman.
Now listen.
A
in def-
baby Wookiee.
Now listen.
contemplates
In
his life.
defense of the people who created this.
This I have to hear.
Now, let's just understand that at this time in '78, look, variety shows were big. You know, you had the
No,
Donnie
yeah,
Marie
yeah.
show.
And I was
Carol
so starved
Burnett.
for Star Wars that when they had the Star Wars characters on the Muppet Show
Yes.
and on Donnie
yeah.
and Marie,
Oh.
I was like, hallelujah!
And so-
it was like water in the desert.
And I would go on to say that I don't know what the ratings for that, but they must have been
Oh, I'm
huge.
sure they were. I'm sure they were
Huge.
And then like lots of jaw
Now-
drops afterwards.
Now,
like, what the
now
hell?
we have talked about this Christmas special on other other episodes.
It's
I still want that
Yes,
Bambi
we
toy.
legendary, and I
Listen to
still
those episodes.
wish somebody though would like I mean, I want to know that nobody talks about the history and behind the scenes of it or anything. Like, I want to know.
Well, Luke,
all I know is I want that Bantha toy.
I also know that.
That's it. You know what? You got something there, Sheridan. I think that could be a really interesting documentary.
Yeah.
Making
yeah.
of.
The making of and finding whoever's still alive.
Yeah.
and-
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's understand that Lucas has gone on to say that his goal in life was to try to find every
and
copy
destroy it.
and destroy it.
I'd also like to mention on that Harrison Ford has no memory of ever filming that.
Well,
like they interviewed him on that, or he has deniability.
As I'm sure Carrie Fisher did.
Yeah,
too.
that's a cut to 5,000
Studio
bong hits
56
later.
music.
Yeah.
It's the same way that got directed, that entire thing. Just
But it is.
It should have been
crazy.
better then.
a VR headset.
I would
Yes.
I would actually say
I think the sound effect we want is.
Well, yeah, I think you're right. No, you're right.
all
You're
right.
right.
So look,
you're right.
and I
yeah.
under- I
That's why they
understand.
picked Starship instead of a good band.
And I understand, people are, hey, let's poke fun at this. I'm
Right,
not
yeah,
gonna. I'm
that's
not
what we're
gonna
gonna do.
say. Some people say, oh, it's like so bad, it's good. I'm not really gonna recommend to a Star Wars fan, a new Star Wars fan, to
But
watch
it's, to me, it's such a fascinating anomaly, though. It's just
is an
so
anomaly.
bizarre. There's no equivalent of that in any
No.
other franchise.
No,
It says
no,
more
I-
about.
There's never
It
been
says
like
more
the
about
Logan's Run
70s.
TV special or the
It
or like
says more about
I think
70s
that one
greed
would
and
have worked.
yeah. I mean,
There
it's
actually
It's
is
almost there already,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. I guess so,
The look
yeah.
and feel of it.
Sure.
yeah, but like this, just,
That Carousel could have been a big
like, disco
show-stopping number.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Fun
Lola
fact
Falana.
about Lord of the Rings. Fun fact about Lord of the Rings: there isn't like a TV special for the new ones. I forget the director's name, but
Peter Jackson?
Yeah, Peter Jackson ones. But there is an old TV special hosted by the guy who plays Spock in the old TV show.
Leonard Nimoy?
Leonard Nimoy. Yeah, I don't
His
know why.
name is Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah, I'm names are eluding me
It's okay.
today.
He's young.
Yeah.
He's young. Go ahead, buddy.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
doing-
There was
you're
this
doing-
band called the Beatles.
Owen, you're doing.
There's this guy, the Beatles.
Come on, Owen, you're doing
Wow.
fine. Just get to the point.
Thanks, Dad. But no, there's Leonard Nimoy. He hosted this weird Hobbit thing back in the day where they sing the song
Well, I know
about
the
Bilbo
Bilbo
Baggins.
Baggins song. I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But that was part of it. I know that was like a
So you-
one-shot music video. I didn't know it was part of a
the music
Yeah, the
video
music
is
video.
Yeah, there's that.
legendary.
It's
Yeah.
so
The
I
song
love it.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. That's
Oh,
true.
man.
That's great, but it has nothing to do with
Yes, it
Star
does.
Wars.
It does
Because
Star
he
Trek,
says
Star
it
Wars,
does.
it's the
Yeah.
same thing.
Right. But so
Yeah.
so jumping ahead, though,
You got to go now.
Let's jump ahead, please.
Thank you.
That's Star Trek, right?
Sean.
Oh wait, but actually before
Bye-bye.
that, there was in the '80s when Star Wars was still big. We had the 2 Ewok TV movies.
Yes.
We had the Droids TV,
The Droids
Can we go back to-
animated cartoon.
The
Right.
Ewok movies, I have zero memory of.
Me too.
I only remember this
and
little blonde-haired
I
kid.
just found out they existed.
Yeah.
Are they?
Like I don't. I
We were teenagers then.
is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we
think that's
we
why we
outgrew
just-
Star
I know
Wars.
that. I found out that
I told you
one
about
of,
this desert that happened between 83 and
So that's what it.
94.
It was in that time.
yeah.
Because I know Wilford Brimley's in the
Yeah,
second
he is
one.
in one of them, right?
Which
yeah.
that only for that
They
would
tried so hard to keep the Star Wars franchise alive
Right.
with these horrible cartoons that were directed by the guy, ironically, who also did the animation for the Star Wars Holiday Special, which it might be the only good
only
part
cool
of the
thing.
Holiday Special
Yeah.
is those animated
well,
sequences.
it was Japanese, right? Well,
I don't think
like,
it was. No, I think it was American.
It felt like
the animator is eluding me, but
Yeah.
they had it was almost like a Mad Magazine Mort Drucker
or like heavy
model.
metal. Heavy
Yeah,
metal.
like heavy
It was
metal.
like heavy metal meets Star Wars.
It's
that
sad
was
that
cool.
that's like the only Star Wars work he did was for those specials because he's a really talented guy.
yeah.
He went on and did the Droids TV show and the Ewok show. Like they ended up making him like the guy that led those.
Oh,
but
wow.
like when R2,
they're great.
Well, you don't give R2D2 and C3PO stretch and squash, which is an animation
Yeah, that was
term,
weird. Yeah.
because it doesn't work for a droid. They need to be solid
Right,
and move
right.
slowly.
Yeah, they're
But-
just they're straight. But Boba Fett's cool in that animated.
He's
thing.
great in that,
Yeah,
and
he
he's
has
got
cool
like a
voice.
spear, and he's
Yeah,
riding a
badass.
dinosaur.
Yeah,
You know, but once
He's
again,
like playing both sides.
Once again,
Yeah.
the way that people will forgive stuff for Star Wars, they wouldn't for anything else. Like there's a
How
like
many
a,
Star
a
Trek
three,
series have
a-
we had?
Well, I don't defend those.
Those
though.
are
but
ba-
I don't
there's
defend
bad
the,
movies,
I don't
and yet
defend.
there's
I don't
Star
defend the bad ones.
That's another thing. You can't compare Star Trek and Star Wars like that because Star Trek.
I didn't even bring up Star Trek. No,
Oh.
I'm just saying that like so you have a 3-minute little animated thing, which I personally don't think is that great. I don't think it's that well animated.
I'm saying it's the best thing of the holiday special.
It's amazing.
I'm saying within the
Yeah.
context of the holiday special, that
yeah.
animated sequence is a highlight.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that and the
It's
end
better than the
credits,
Lola
you know what I
Falana
mean? Like,
number. That's
I
all
don't
I'm
like-
saying.
I would actually defend the B. Arthur scene. I actually like that, but that's me. That's me.
I think the Harvey Korman thing.
Clearly, the best scene is when they spend 10 minutes showing the little Ewok kid assembling a computer.
Yeah,
That-
it's pretty amazing.
Cinema masterpiece.
I do. What's
Wookiee,
what
did I
was,
see? Oh, God.
Sean? What's the sequence with the weird dancers?
Well, yeah,
It's
it's
the grandpa.
Uncle Itchy.
Yeah.
Puts on like a VR thing.
no, not that one.
Oh yeah, no,
the
it's
weird
like
acrobats
it's like
or
a
whatever.
Cirque du Soleil kind of thing.
Well,
Comes
well,
they
spinning
tried,
out of a horn
yeah,
shell
they
or
tried to like
Those guys creep me.
Yeah.
out.
big time.
Well, they were trying to do
So
something instead
scary.
of like the stop motion chess game. They thought, what can we do? Let's do
Let's
this.
get a bunch of guys from the Renaissance Fair.
Yeah, yeah.
And get them
and
drunk.
and it goes on forever. Yeah,
You know, that goes on forever.
every scene.
Everything
and they
in that
all look
goes on
creepy. They
forever.
all look like
Yes.
I got to get back to the porn set after
Yeah,
this.
right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty bizarre.
Well,
yeah,
So,
okay,
99.
99.
99.
Now, everyone was so excited. We had talked about this because Lucas had complete control.
Yeah.
And I remember the preview, and the preview was very exciting. Lucas actually went on the Oprah Winfrey show. They showed the trailer, and it was similar in the sense that we knew what the Star Wars was. It was clip, clip, clip,
Right,
clip,
right.
clip.
They just
and
showed-
you
right.
saw Darth
Teased you.
Maul. Oh my God, that's what
my
a
favorite
great
character
looking
of that.
character.
Yeah.
And everyone was so excited.
Lots to choose from there.
The anticipation for this film was astronomical.
it was insane.
People were spending night in like a week
Oh, yeah,
in
yeah.
line for the first screening of this movie. Well, look,
God, get a life.
no. We joke about it now, but I mean, this was like again. You guys, we grew up back in those 70s times. Now for a new generation of kids who kind of grew up watching it on their VHSs, now this is like their moment.
Yeah, we get
so
to see
they're
it in
actually
the theater,
they get
new
to
Star
and
Wars
have the
movie.
whole
And
experience.
Lucas is the 100% behind it. And I was like buying the toys early like a jackass.
Yeah, the
And
best-
John
yeah.
Estes called it. Remember our friend John Estes?
Sure, I love
really
John.
talented artist, works for EA Games now and probably the
Saw him not
mastermind
long
behind
ago. He's-
most of the Sims. I
What
know.
a beautiful man.
Hasn't aged today.
The greatest.
But back in the day, everybody else was like on fire for all this Phantom Menace. We were sure we were going to see this masterpiece, and John was the one who went, I don't know.
He called it. He knew it. He probably
called
knew it in his
100%.
bones.
And he said, yeah, well, I see it this way. Star Wars was pretty great. Empire Strikes Back, really great. And then you could see the cracks starting to show with Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And he said that back then. He goes, so now it's like, you know, you're telling me that Lucas didn't have all the control he wanted when Return of the Jedi came out? He goes, now he's got 100% control.
100%.
And you think it's going to get any better?
and he's directing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but now he's directing it. And
I mean, the best
womp womp.
the best moment of that movie. And I sat in the theater, see that when that fanfare hits,
Right.
and the 20th century logo and the scroll starts. I'm like, oh my God, and then like about 20 minutes in,
20.
yeah,
I think it's sooner than that
Not even
for
that.
me.
I'm like,
Jar Jar Binks hits the screen.
well, now
it
Jar
was-
Jar Binks. Let's just get right to it.
Okay.
Jar Jar Binks. Now, I could understand. Let's say you are trying to write a comedic character. Oh, God. Okay? You're trying to write a comedic character, and you think it's funny.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so you do some scenes, you write some scenes. Now there's some CGI that's been done.
Yeah.
And all it takes is like 3 people to go, isn't that Step and Fetch It?
Well, we come full
And
circle.
then someone doesn't.
No
and
one. No one says it.
That no
Matt.
one said. Like, and you have created an environment where no one can tell you
no.
it's wrong.
Now,
You nailed
and,
it.
And so
and that's the thing. Is like, and coming full circle, just to stay on Jar Jar Binks for a second. That's another point where it's like, oh, but it's not for you; it's for the kids,
For the
So
4-year-old.
Let's ask the,
Owen?
Let's ask the boy.
Owen.
Yeah,
Okay, so
slightly unpopular opinion.
you go in, you're
Am I allowed to
watching
swear?
it.
Am I allowed to swear on here?
Oh, big time.
Fuck Jar Jar Binks, like big time.
Yeah.
Oh my
that
God.
alien cocksucker.
That son of a bitch. He owes me $5. No. I
only 5.
How did no? So now you going to the theater?
He's a
You
little
saw
bit
this in
young.
the theater? Yes.
No, I was too young.
You did?
I
Okay,
watched.
all right.
I watched this with so much hesitance from my father. I remember because I loved the first couple.
Okay,
I watched
right.
the first couple Star Wars. I was like, "That was great, Dad. Are there any more?" And he was like, Yes.
That was
I like
before
your-
the dark times.
I like your young you voice. That was like-
I could go higher, but that would,
Gee, Papa.
Now, I had mentioned this on another show. I had a really good friend who I worked with a special effects studio in Northern California who went on to work at ILM.
Oh, yeah.
And he worked with Lucas editing The Phantom Menace.
Oh, boy.
He worked with
Yeah.
George every day.
Wow.
And I
So what's it
asked him
like?
after the film, I went to him, and I'm not going to say his name, but I said, buddy, what happened? I mean, and I said, didn't anyone say, George, this is kind of racist. George, this isn't funny. George, this isn't. And he goes, Larry, think of it from my point of view. I work at the best special effects studio in the world. We get paid so well here, and there's constant work. We are hired to create George's dream. Why would I jeopardize my job by saying anything like that?
I'm sure
And
I'm the
then
same way.
and there is this great documentary on the Phantom Menace DVD, and when you look at it, there's a scene where they have the film edited together for the first time. I brought this up in another episode, and they screen the whole film for the first time. Everyone in the audience, you have the producer, you have George, you have all the designers. At the end of the film ends. It's dead quiet. The shot on the producer, he's sitting there with his hand over his mouth. No one does this. Oh,
No, no.
it was
No,
great.
it's like-
And the first comment is from Lucas, and he says, wow, I think maybe we bit off more than we can chew.
Yeah, maybe we went too far.
Everyone was terrified.
No, it's
And
like watching a movie with Kim Jong-un.
Right. Yes, Matt, with all due respect to Mr. Lucas, yes, Matt, when you create an environment like that, when you think that I'm creating this really funny thing, Jar Jar Binks, the name Jar Jar Binks came from his little son. Hey, I've got this crazy character, kid. What do you think I should call him? Jar Jar Binks. Okay, sounds great. That's how he was named.
Well, he sets up this echo chamber for himself where it's just any idea that comes off of him from his kids, from anything. He's like, oh, I think that would be
This
cute.
is going to be great.
It's
And
going to be wonderful.
And if you go back to
Yeah.
Star Wars,
His son, shit out Act 3.
Where-
Problem
where
when
he
you let
had
your
the-
son involved.
No. This is one example, but it's like when you go back to Star Wars, where he had all this help and
Well,
assistance.
he had to
and-
try. He had challenges ahead of him. He had
And
he
he
had hurdles.
still
to-
had people who could
Pretty
say
sure
no
letting
to
your
him.
son having being the executive producer is how Shark Boy and Lava Girl got made, and we all know how well that turned out, right, guys?
Well,
take your word
look,
for it.
That's
terrible.
That's another movie. But when we had Brian Peck on, he tells the story about when he went to see it at Skywalker Ranch, and Lucas said, "So, what do you think?" And his polite response, Brian Peck's polite response, was, "Well, you know something, George, there was maybe just a little too much CGI for me," kind of a thing. and Lucas goes, "Well, yeah, I understand, but you know, this was really for the kids. It was almost like it
kids
was an
love CGI.
No.
That's his
It was
thing,
like an
yeah.
excuse. It was an excuse.
why
And the
that's so
truth
for
of
the
the matter
kids.
is, from what I heard from my friend after the fact, that film was panned. Star Wars fans were pissed off. Everyone was upset. And he heard this. He listened to it. And so if you look at the second and the third films, Jar Jar Binks is not in those films as much.
Right.
Thank God.
Here's the thing. I was going to ask you, do you know about the machete cut?
No, tell me about the machete cut.
Okay, this
With
is
machete?
this is the way of watching the Star Wars movies in the right order. So what happens is we, as you and I, as the kids who grew up with this, here's the ultimate doom of the prequels. They tell you a story you know the ending to.
Right.
They're a huge 6-hour waste of time if you ever saw Episode 4 and Episode 5 and Return of the Jedi. Why am I watching these movies? So if you try to introduce somebody new to them, the hugest mistake you can make, with my nephew as a reference from earlier, is to try to bring them in and go, here's Episode 1. Now, I know the story of Darth Vader because I've watched Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. I know that Darth Vader is Luke's father because that happens. So if you watch them in order, 1 through 6, what a huge letdown by the time Darth goes, Luke, I am your father.
Yes.
You know, he didn't told you
Yeah.
the truth.
So wait a minute.
Like,
Are you
that's-
saying that the idea should be to actually start them from 1 so they don't know?
No.
That's the mistake that you make, because by the time it's revealed in Empire Strikes Back, now all of us, the older people here that actually saw them in the theater, the revelation that Darth
Powerful.
was Luke's father
Sure, yeah.
was earthquake.
Sure, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it was like an earthquake.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God.
That can't be true.
No, and then that's Luke's reaction. It's impossible.
No, that's how I felt.
That's how
I
we
thought in
all
the
felt.
third
And
movie
so
I was
Luke's
going to learn that
reflection of
wasn't
that.
actually true, that he was lying. That's what I thought.
So the way to introduce the new generation, if anybody wants to see Star Wars for the first time, and believe it or not, there are people that haven't seen these movies, you take it and you start with
Number 4.
Rogue One.
Rogue
So
One.
you start with Rogue One because we
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
have this until recently. But we start with Rogue One. You see Star Wars: A New Hope. You watch Empire Strikes Back. Now, Empire Strikes Back has the ending that Matt hates, which is it ends on a half
Cliffhanger.
note.
Yeah.
That's where you take your opportunity to like eliminate the Phantom Menace altogether and go back to the second movie, Attack of the Clones.
Interesting.
And then watch Revenge of the Sith as flashbacks. Oh. And then by the time Revenge of the Sith wraps up, Darth has gone to the dark side,
Yes.
or Anakin has gone to the dark side,
Yes.
and we've seen the switch, and the Clone Wars have begun, and then you go and watch Return of the Jedi.
I think I like this.
And when you watch
I think I like
it,
this.
it's so much fun. I've done it.
Derek,
and
that's interesting.
I would like to take credit, but this is it's not my thing. But
It's the machete.
But I've experienced it, and it's delightful. Oh, yeah. So then you go. I made him sit through it with me. This is how I turned him into something.
He actually didn't make me sit through that. I just enjoyed myself that.
Oh, how do you like that?
I took the shackles off after, but but I gave you ham. So, but
The things I had to do and give to Owen to get him to watch Krull with me.
But what was great is that but when you get to Return of the Jedi, those serve as flashbacks. And so when you see Return of the Jedi, and then Luke confronts Darth about oh my God, it's got so much richness to it because you know how far Darth has fallen.
Right.
Because you experience them through Revenge of the Sith and Attack of the Clones.
Right.
And then you
Right.
see that, and then you get to go into Force Awakens with all of that as backstory.
Well, and that's what's great.
Suddenly it's fun to watch because then Force Awakens is an echo, which
Right.
is the way that like Lucas has often said, hey, I want my stories to be echoes of each other, which is why I didn't have a problem with some of the repeat beats in Force Awakens because I felt like they were trying to reset. And when you watch it in
Right.
order, that reset feels genuine.
And that's why when I watched Attack of the Clones, I enjoyed that one a little bit more because the first one was so terrible. At least this had a little more life to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was some fun scenes, but it was still terrible.
Yeah.
But
It still felt like plastic.
Now,
yeah, but
Oh, yeah.
but there were scenes that could be lifted
Yes.
easily that were like, if you just have to watch this, and this scene, I could do that. I also had a girlfriend at the time, a girl I was dating, who worked at Skywalker Ranch. And I went on a radio show, and I was dating her at the same time, and I even had to, I even kind of liked it a little bit more than I probably would have,
Right.
considering.
this is Attack of the Clones. This is from 2002. And
Yeah.
let us remember the whole emphasis in that second movie, or in Attack of the Clones, is so how does Anakin
Right.
get together with...
Padme.
And there's
Padme.
And the funny thing,
comedy.
well, the weird thing that you say, the funny thing about that is Lucas has said, now understand this is a little slower because it's the love story, and it's like again you're like trying to you're trying to
Just
like
make a good movie.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
And that
it's-
part is
it's a shame.
awful.
The shame
Oh,
is
it's like robots trying to, like,
it's
this
the
feeling of love I have for you.
Look,
Yeah.
in defense
Yeah.
of the
3PO,
actors,
just hit on R2.
I want to defend the actors a little bit because
It's not their fault.
It's
That's not
like
their
number
fault.
one. The dialogue that they're reading is the dialogue that was given to them. Number one.
Harrison Ford quote.
Yes.
George, you can write this stuff, but you sure as hell can't
Yes.
say it.
Number two, directing. Now, Lucas, as a director, he's not the kind of guy that says
He's not an
what's your
actor's director.
what's your
No.
feeling, your
No.
emotion,
No,
your, what
no,
is your.
no.
That's not the type of director he is.
He actually likes that dialogue to be more stunted, and apparently, like Natalie Portman and him constantly clash. Now, Natalie Portman would go on to win an Oscar for Black Swan,
Which is
so
great,
Let,
yes.
us just say I think she can act.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah,
if
yeah.
there's a problem with her performance in these movies, I would have to say it's
And-
not her.
and
But I think Hayden Christensen was miscast.
yeah,
think
I do too.
As uncomfortable as his delivery might have been via Lucas, I still think a different actor. I don't know, maybe DiCaprio. I don't know who.
Nah, he's not a good actor either.
Well, no, but I'm just thinking of someone with a little bit more gravity in his personality.
I just actually
Yeah.
think with Hayden Christensen, he was in a movie, Building a House or Life as a House is with Kevin Kline.
So far, this description is making me weary.
It's a really good. It's a good movie.
You're sure?
Yes, he gives a very powerful performance.
I don't think I agree with you. I think it might miscasting doesn't necessarily mean that the actor's a bad actor.
That's what I'm trying to say.
It's just wrong for the project.
I would like to defend
right.
Hayden Christensen
Shattered
because he
Glass.
gives a very powerful performance in this movie. I think his Life as a House
And Shattered
with Kevin
Glass, he was
Kline.
very good
Yeah.
in that movie.
Yes.
That I think for the Star Wars series, you needed someone with a little more
And I liked him in
darkness
Jumper, too.
in them.
Something.
Yeah, a little more of a bad boy vibe.
But he looks a little bit like a young Mark Hamill if you actually put them side by side, so you can almost see like the father-son thing going there, and that might have been an influence on the
Maybe,
casting.
yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
just speculating. But the point that I wanted to make is that there's really good things that you can pluck out of Attack of the Clones.
That's true.
Where I really enjoyed, like, you get to see the dynamic between Anakin and Obi-Wan, which is something that's alluded to in A New Hope, where you go, we were really good friends. You see some of that
Right.
friendship. And then and what I loved about Empire Strikes Back over Star Wars, which I have a hard time determining which of those two movies I love more, but Empire Strikes Back took you to multiple worlds. So you saw
Yeah.
Hoth, you saw
Bespin.
Endor, but you didn't see Endor, I apologize. But you see Hoth and you see Dagobah and these other different
Cloud
planets.
City,
Thank
yeah.
you.
No, that's cool.
And then I like that you traveled through a galaxy where really only in Star Wars you saw Tatooine, and then you were in space most of the time on the
true,
Death
that's
Star.
true, yeah.
So but you saw other worlds in Empire Strikes Back, where Attack of the Clones did that too. You got to see Coruscant in all of its glory.
Got to see Yoda.
which is and Yoda,
little
when he
badass
was
Yoda.
young, and I love seeing Yoda. Like, why is he a Jedi Master?
I see. A lot of people did not like that, and I did.
Oh, good, because I
With-
like that.
with-
I
too.
enjoyed
with
that.
That's the only-
Seeing-
Christopher Lee.
Yeah,
Seeing him
and that's
jump
the
around amused me.
And I actually say that's, for me, like, that's where CGI is appropriate, because
Yeah.
you saw young Yoda come to life, and I wanted
Yeah,
to
that
know
was not bad,
why
yeah.
Yoda was a badass
Also,
once upon
and-
a time.
And look, Christopher Lee was not a spring chicken.
No.
There was that wasn't actually him, doing the whole
Really?
I mean,
Really?
And you're telling me Yoda's not real either?
they had him on wires. Like, get me down! Ow!
All right, that's very funny.
But I still think that those three prequels, though, still because it was 1999 and the early 2000s. Some of that CGI is already dated. Like some of it already is
Yeah.
Just
absolutely.
it's
Yeah. Too
so
much of it.
early CGI, and the original Star Wars and even Empire feels grounded. There's still a feel of reality,
A human story
and
too.
there's
Right.
nothing of that
Yeah.
in the prequels to me.
And this is one of the things that I actually defend about what I like about Force Awakens so much, is that whatever qualms you have with the film, J.J. Abrams actually made an effort to say, I'm bringing back practical effects because it's something that you, Matt,
Yeah.
have made me fall in love with, where
Yeah.
I used to be a big defender. I remember seeing The Last Starfighter. I'm like, that's how Star Wars should be done. And I think it was you that, like, smacked the taste out of my mouth for saying such a thing, because
It wasn't
what's-
because of that movie. It
No,
was
I know. You just like to do that.
Yeah.
But what's really
the
great,
drugs.
though, is so many drugs. But the thing that was really beautiful to me about when I go back and watch those making ofs for A New Hope is that somebody built that. Somebody
Right.
sat
Yeah.
there and meticulously
Yes.
painted the side of that.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful when you think about how believable it is on screen because somebody put that time.
And
in.
I
CGI
agree.
can work with practical effects.
And that's what J.J. Abrams wanted to
And-
prove,
and
and,
by
I
that-
feel did.
Yeah, and by that point, CGI was to a point that it could merge well.
Yeah.
That's true. Force Awakens, I really did. It really felt like a Star Wars film.
This is
I enjoyed it.
Unlike the prequels,
for all
and
its flaws.
the prequels were
2015.
the prequels were pretending to be Star Wars,
Yeah.
but Force Awakens, I thought, oh my god, they got that. They got that right.
The biggest issue I had with the prequels was how far in they went on the CG, because the CG then.
Everything.
Oh well, yeah,
Yeah.
that especially though. You can see it when they go back and they redo the original films too. Is that at the level CG was at the time, they went way too far into it because it was still coming along pretty.
Right.
It was still pretty behind.
Right.
They had to do a lot to make it look like it was part of the world, and they still kind of failed with the
Right,
prequels.
right.
And it really sticks out now.
And one of the problems you have too is that the prequels end up looking better than the future.
Yeah.
So like
I know,
the past
yeah.
looks better. Like
Yeah, that doesn't
they're
make-
flying
right.
around in this perfectly silver ship in Phantom Menace,
Right, yeah.
and I'm like, where's
It
the-
goes-
Is George Powell
But
doing this?
somebody-
It goes back to what Larry was saying about like how it feels like a lived-in world. That
Right.
was, none
Yeah.
of the prequels feel like that.
Somebody
no,
made
no.
one of the apologists made an interesting theory that once
Oh,
the
I love
Empire
this.
took over, it was like the Soviet takeover of Russia, where things were kind of going well, and then they ground to a halt. I have a longer story about the Berlin Wall that probably isn't appropriate for this moment, but there is the idea that, like, you know, when a totalitarian government sets foot on progress, then things start to break down.
Sure.
And that's why New Hope, everything's kind of worn down and broken, where before the empire took over and the Senate and all that was working, things were kind of nice. But I don't think that really makes the gap close.
No, and besides, look at the special editions. They try to pretty up those films anyway.
Well,
to
that's
make
the
them look, you
mistake.
know,
Yeah, and then my question then would be, if the thing that made Star Wars cool was the lived-in look of everything, in addition to a lot of other things, but if that's one of the things that makes Star Wars great, why would you get rid of that? Don't tell that story.
Right.
Don't
Right,
go as
right.
far back. You know, pick it up midway or whatever.
Well, Rogue
But-
One
And
kind of.
that brings me back around to the machete cut.
Yeah.
So when you watch these in order that way, it strangely flows in a way that's even better. So now we have Last Jedi, which jury's still out on for me.
Really?
2017.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, there's parts, because here's the thing, and this is a good
Is
place.
that what
for
Gareth,
Owen
Gareth
to-
Edwards
like,
directed?
yeah.
Yes.
But Owen
that guy.
and Andrew,
That guy
my other
ruins
son,
everything.
They loved it. Whereas, like,
Wait, the last
Don't put words in my mouth.
Last Jedi from 2017.
Yeah.
You loved it.
Well, okay, don't put words.
Thanks, Dad.
Thanks God. This podcast is about me, Dad. No. When I first saw it, I had that. This is something I get from every movie I go to see, which is
Okay.
it's kind of one of my faults. Where if I see a movie, I will come out of it being like, "That was pretty good, right?" It's like what you were saying earlier about the.
I'm like that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially a
But-
big.
And then like a
epic
day
film
goes
like
by
that.
and you go, ugh.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
yeah.
getting food poisoning.
I think it was the other way around for you, where you saw it a second time. Talking to my dad here, he saw it a second time, and like the first time he saw it, he hated it, and then he went back. He was like, "Ah, I actually."
I didn't hate it.
Wait, well, I'm sorry. What was that?
The first time I saw it, I wanted, like Owen, like I was in the theater. My friend took me as a Christmas gift, like, "Hey, I'll take you to see Star Wars," and we had a good time watching it. So I was happy to be there, but I remember leaving feeling like it was a movie I enjoyed, but it didn't feel like a Star Wars
Yes.
movie.
Yeah.
I agree.
And
Yeah.
then, so I thought, well, maybe it was me. Maybe something was missing. I had been working really hard. It was sort of let me.
Maybe you spent the night outside.
I was in a bad place emotionally.
See, that's what happens
So-
to Star Wars fans. You get to a place where it must be me.
right.
That's fair. That's actually fair. But
That's fair.
I personally was going through a. Let me tell you all about it.
No.
No.
Just
I wasn't in a
Oh,
great. I
shit.
wasn't in a great place. So like even if
I knew
Star
eventually
Wars,
we'd get to that.
if Star Wars couldn't elevate me out of my mood,
Right.
I thought maybe it's just I was in a bad mood, and so maybe I was willing to give it a second try because everybody seemed to love it.
That visit to that Las Vegas plant and like get your hopes up.
No, but everybody
about the
loved it
world.
but me. So I was like, well,
What?
maybe that was the scuttlebutt at the time for my circle.
There are people. There are like big.
There are people that are like this
backers
is,
of that movie. Like
this is the best Star
Yeah,
Wars movie
yeah.
ever. So
Yeah,
I
it
was
is kinda-
I was
it
like
is kind of polarizing.
so I watched it again with Owen and Andrew streaming it, and I liked
You
it more the
pissing on
second
it?
time.
Oh, streaming it. Okay, I got it. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. No, well, yeah, it was the same thing. My initial reaction to it was, yeah, that was a good Star Wars movie. And then I thought about it more, and I just realized what was going on the entire time. That movie was all over the place.
That movie made me not like Force Awakens.
Right.
Yes.
And this is why.
Because
I'm
it was
sorry.
like, I thought it was going to be like, okay, we got Star Wars back again.
Yeah.
We got the mood back.
Force
Yeah.
Awakens showed a lot of promise.
Yeah.
There
Yes.
was a build-up. And
in the first 5 minutes, you have Luke Skywalker goes. There's one of the most touching scenes that moves me in the whole Star Wars canon. Absolutely loved Rey finding Luke when we don't know if we're ever going to
Yeah.
see him
Yeah.
again.
Right.
Holding
Yeah.
out that
Yes.
lightsaber was so, and I love that actress, and she's just got so much hope and love in her eyes.
Yeah.
And she's like, here, and we don't know what's going to happen next. And in the first 5 minutes, he goes, womp womp. Like, oh, we don't care.
That didn't make sense
Yeah.
to me.
There's-
Like, oh, I mean, it's a comedy moment
Yeah.
now. Like, wait, I put a
we
lot
could-
of
We could go down a litany of what's wrong with
exactly.
that movie. Okay. If you suspect Finn is deserting, you're going to tase him? That's protocol for the rebellion. You tase a deserter. That's first order bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one thing.
Good call.
No,
Go, man, go.
No protagonist, not a single protagonist in this movie who ventures out to get anything done accomplishes it.
True.
Yeah. Well, they literally did not know what to do with the character of Finn. Like
I
they
agree,
they,
and
they
I
just
love
like
that character.
Even
I know.
Finn,
Yeah.
even Finn trying to
I
sacrifice
was worried about whether he
himself
was
at the
going to live or
end.
die at the end of the movie.
It was
He's
just
done
like,
so
it was-
much to protect Rey against Kylo Ren that I was like invested in that guy.
Yeah,
mutiny,
I know.
The mutiny is undermined. That doesn't happen. And Laura Dern suddenly deciding to do a kamikaze move
Yeah.
on the ship. Well, maybe she could have thought of that a few minutes before most of the rebel fleet got taken.
I know,
and
I
let's
just don't
remember,
understand that.
we live in a universe at this point as story followers. Droids can fly things. There's really no reason
That's
for a
true.
human life to give herself up.
Autopilot.
Yeah.
But do you think like this is just I've said this before. This is just like theory of mine. That, like that movie went through various drafts, and to me, it's like.
It really does feel like it.
But
too,
yeah, it does. I always thought that maybe was Laura Dern's character added later because I thought
Yeah,
that
what-
would have been no. I thought they would have figured out something where like it was Princess Leia who stays behind.
Yeah,
and
what do you guys know about
sacrifices
that?
herself.
What do you
would have
know
been,
about that?
You know, and like that would have been she sacrifices herself to
Yeah.
save the fleet. That would have
Yeah.
been make more
More
sense.
powerful.
Yes,
Yeah.
So like and also the whole thing of her floating in space was like what.
What?
Why?
What?
I think I literally
Waited
said
all
what the
this
fuck
time
in the
to
theater.
show us that Princess Leia can use the Force. Now you're going to tell
But
us
she can
this?
float in
But
space.
it float in
Like,
space?
like it was just so.
No, see,
awful.
I'm with Sean on this one.
I'm with you too. I
Yeah.
didn't like any of that.
That whole sequence, especially, is probably the most just convolutedly weird, illogical.
and it's
like,
not even
what's
bad.
sequence in a
Weird-
2001
weird-
like.
yeah, yeah.
I think if I had one,
But that makes more sense.
one critical word for that whole movie for me, it's weird.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
it doesn't feel like Star
It
Wars.
It's
doesn't-
like
it
a
took
bunch of
all the-
mishmashed scenes together.
But
The
then
John
every once in a
Williams-
while, I'm like, oh, and then I go,
The leitmotifs, the John Williams themes. It's like, oh, there's Yoda's theme. Oh, this must be a Star Wars movie. Oh, there's
oh,
Luke's
and
theme.
Yoda goes through all that shit just to tell Luke, oh, all this stuff you've been learning, fuck it.
Not only that, but not only that, but most of the time I had to like, wait, is he speaking like Yoda's supposed to speak? Because he's not switching his words around.
And
He's
then I went
actually-
back to the puppet, and suddenly I didn't like the puppet.
I don't know. You know, for me, when I looked forward to the sequels after Return of the Jedi, I envisioned that you would revisit Luke, Leia, and Han when they're older.
Yeah.
And having
Right.
fun with them.
Yes.
The one thing, as much as I thought Force Awakens showed promise, spoiler, did you fucking have to kill Han? You never ever see. Look,
Yeah,
look,
you did.
I know Ford didn't want to be in them anymore.
Yeah, right.
But,
That's
put him,
why.
Put him in Carbonite again. I don't give a shit. you're never going to see these three characters reunite again with any sense of happiness. I would have given money just to hear Han say "Your worship" to
That
Leia,
was
even
the-
at that age.
that was the main thing I wanted.
You have written. It would have been the greatest thing ever to have on in Carbonite again.
You know that.
Go and then just like
You know, it's funny. I think Sean brought this up on a previous show too. Also, there were missed opportunities when after the loss of Han, and here's Chewie that comes out of the ship, and it's like
Yeah, he gets over it pretty quick.
Chewie and Leia, they know each other, and instead of having this great emotional moment because we love Chewbacca, to have the moment of them hugging. It's like she doesn't even go to Chewbacca.
She goes straight to
No, she
Rey.
goes
and it's like
Right.
So
someone she
weird.
doesn't even know.
Like, he gets- Yeah, poor
do they
Chewie.
know each other? And then the other thing is too, like back to what's wrong with Last Jedi. There's a great Mark Hamill acting moment where he goes, "Where's Han?" And then they cut.
he's the best part of that entire
Yes,
movie.
and like, 'cause I
do-
get to
yeah.
see Luke again, and I'm happy for
No.
that.
Yeah,
And
I
he's
do
absolutely
like
right about
really
the reunion.
good.
Yeah, he's really good in it. He brings a law of gravity to it. I do like the ruse at the end that he pulls. I mean, it's,
Yeah,
it's
that was
definitely a
cool.
new Jedi trick, but I thought it was pretty cool. But the thing about the Finn and the chick on the Vegas planet was that felt like, I've said this before too. That whole sequence felt like prequel land.
Absolutely.
That was like that belonged that you could have seen it in the Phantom Menace.
It
Like
seems
it's
like
that bad.
It seems like let's cut to another movie.
yeah, it really was. with CGI
And what was the
cows.
whole point about sending them out there when nothing came of it?
Yeah,
Well,
Like,
yeah, nothing comes of anything anybody.
no
and-
character gets resolved.
you're
Like,
right,
no
James.
characters
And
do
at the
anything.
same time, but one of the things that was beautiful about that film that I was hoping would be realized, and what it started with in A New Hope, where you watch Han and Chewie return to the Falcon and go, Chewie, we're home. And it's like,
Such
right.
a great line.
and then all I wanted to see was the three of them in the cockpit.
Yeah,
That's all
that was
I
that
wanted.
one moment that I
Wait.
was hoping to get.
Well, you know how you said kind of Last Jedi kind of made a bad taste in your mouth a little bit towards Force Awakens. Also, after seeing Last Jedi, it made me appreciate Rogue One even more.
Right.
Oh, Rogue One.
because-
I agree.
Can we
that's
talk
one
about-
that's one that I got. Like I watched, liked it with some reservations.
Right.
But each time I go back to it, I enjoy it more.
You know what?
Yeah.
So it actually has a coherent story.
So
It
Rogue
has-
One, a Star Wars story. This came out in 2016. This
Before,
is,
right.
and the funny thing about it for people who don't know, Rogue One kind of tells the story which is supposed to be Episode 4. It's like, where did these Death Star plans come from?
Right.
What did where and
What's-
you know
what's
and
happening
what's
in the
weird
crawl is this
what's,
movie.
What's weird is for me when I first saw it. I mean, part of me wanted the I wanted the whole crawl. I didn't get that, so I wasn't sure how I felt about it.
Yeah.
But it is kind of a really cool story.
That's why it's a great place to start with this machete cut because it's
Right.
before there's and I love the fact that there's not a crawl because it's setting up the Star Wars. There really is not a war up until
Right.
that moment
Right.
happens. Like the war is triggered at that point by them getting the Death Star
And
plans.
one of
away.
the things I loved about it too was, unlike some of the other films, I mean, there's this feeling of self-sacrifice, which was
yeah.
so.
It was a true
powerful.
war, like an old-fashioned war film.
Yeah,
I love it,
yeah.
you know?
Or
With
for
all
whom
the-
the bell tolls,
With
or
all the
something like that.
beach settings, it almost feels like Iwo Jima.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing about Rogue One and the other thing about the opening crawl is that I really like that because the thing about Rogue One is I love it as a movie, but it isn't exactly a Star Wars film. It's a little different. And Gary Whitta, removing that, it sets up a precedent. Like, yes, this is Star Wars, but it's not Star Wars.
It's within the universe.
It's within
of
the
Star
universe,
Wars.
but this is going to take a different direction, and it's not going to be exactly what
I
you're
understand.
expecting.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Until the very end, where it starts to become okay. Let's build scene for scene seamlessly to the beginning of Episode 4.
remarkably.
Yeah.
Remarkably, that's actually a good use of those effects in a lot of ways because Grand Moff Tarkin feels legit and
Well,
I just had an
that's
issue.
where having
as
a-
best as they could do.
I like it. I like it.
Look, I like the look. I wish they could have done a better job on the voice.
I do
Hey.
too. However,
Yeah, I do agree with that.
And don't
but
you know?
I
and
agree with you.
here's the thing that
But I
pisses
like
me
the way
off.
that they started
for
seaming
the
it
film
together.
Spartacus, when they bring that scene with Laurence Olivier, and they say, and the audio's not there, and they go, "Well, who are we?" Gonna? They have an
Rich Little?
no.
I was just about to say, just go to Rich Little.
No,
Yeah, yeah.
no.
He was the go-to guy.
No. Hannibal Lecter.
Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins did the voice, and it's like spot on. And so it bugs me that
Yeah.
guys, this is Lucasfilm. This is you guys can't find a more specific Grand
I agree.
Moff Tarkin voice.
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
that's and
I
that's
just
what,
think, yeah, but why not just get an actor who looks
I'm-
like
I'm
Peter
mostly
Cushing?
I
speaking
actually
about-
I liked the way he looked.
I liked
I
him.
liked
I'm
it
most-
too, and I don't mind that. Okay, maybe they don't have the technology quite perfect yet, but I really admired the attempt.
the effort. That's what I'm
Okay.
saying. Like because for me it's visual. Like I'm obviously drawn to the visuals of things, and what I liked is how seamlessly the lighting and all that stuff really comes together. Because when you watch them back to back, and then my God, one of the most terrifying Darth Vader scenes ever.
yeah,
That is a great-
Yeah.
When you want to know how badass Darth Vader
Yeah,
is,
that's great.
that's when you see how
Yeah.
badass Darth Vader is.
Yeah,
when
it's
he's
cool.
just throwing storm
The rebels.
and so
yeah.
because what they do in that moment is that builds up the scene in A New Hope when all the rebels
Yeah.
are lined up and like they almost look terrified
Yeah.
and you don't know what's going to come through that door when you first see Star Wars
Right,
and then you
right.
first see Darth Vader. He's pretty intimidating, but that actually makes him even more intimidating because
Yeah.
you know hell is coming through that door.
Right,
If
right.
that
Yeah,
door
yeah.
comes down and these rebels can't
Yeah.
hold him back, it's all over, and it is, and you
Right.
know it is, and it actually works for the
and
tension.
I loved once again to see all those original suits
Yeah.
back in a film. Made me
Yeah,
so
sure.
happy.
Me too,
made me
man.
happy.
They still did not. They did not fucking have to show Princess Leia.
No, they didn't.
It looked terrible.
I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it.
You
The cartoon Leia face?
You know
I
what,
didn't mind it.
Sean?
Didn't bother me.
But they could have just had her. They didn't have to show her. They show her with the
You
hood,
could,
you know,
I'm
in the
not,
hand.
You're,
and
you're
you know
not
it's
wrong.
her.
You're not wrong, but I
That
liked
took
it.
me out of it for a
I,
second.
know what?
I admire. Again, I like the fact that they tried.
These
I-
improvements will be made in the Rogue One special edition.
Yeah, and then Spielberg will come through and get all the flashlights out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's Rogue One, but because of the popularity of Han Solo, everyone loves Han Solo. Okay, and it was so tragic spoiler alert, in The Force Awakens when we see his demise. But the creators or the owners now of Star Wars decide to do Solo. You know, the whole Han Solo story.
Yeah, I know. And see, I have
2018.
You don't like him?
I am with Solo like Matt is with Rogue One. Like the more I watch it, the more I like it.
Really?
I know,
Yeah, I liked
it's an
it.
unpopular opinion.
Why is it?
I love the
I'm
cast.
curious, Matt. Why you do?
awful.
Why?
It's boring.
Really?
It's not exciting. It's not fun. The only thing I can say for that movie is that the casting is great. Everyone had
thought
all
they-
these
I thought
problems
everybody's
with,
good in it,
with
yeah.
the guy who was going to play
Han
Han
Solo.
Solo,
He was
fine.
Yeah.
and I thought
He did
I thought he
great
did a
job.
great job.
And he carries it for me at this point. And I really like. And I'm
I
a Donald
loved him in
Glover
it,
fan, so.
but the story is like, you know what? Maybe you guys should watch a couple caper movies.
Yeah.
Maybe you should see some film noir.
That
Yeah.
pacing,
Because
the pacing is so off in that movie.
it drags on forever.
I-
It's boring.
I do like
and pointless.
I do like how Chewie and Solo get together when they. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
that.
There's
I
a
thought,
great
that was a
show.
neat
15
moment.
minutes in
there
that
was a
movie.
neat moment where it's like they don't know what this thing is. They call it the Beast because it's this
Yeah.
thing that just growls and roars. And I thought
like that
whole,
one
that
moment.
whole
Yeah.
sequence I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
I like that how these guys get together.
But like Han and his girlfriend trying to get out of the city and that whole thing, that goes on forever. And then
Yeah.
he finally the way that they get out is so just ham-fisted and stupid. Like once again, when people say, "Oh, this is so great," I'm like, "Have you seen other movies?" If you've
not
seen
saying-
other
I'm not
caper
saying it's a
films,
masterpiece,
if
but
you've seen other caper
It's not
films,
bad. It's not that bad.
it's boring.
Yeah, I think the
Wow.
scene I was most bored by in that movie was like a climax scene. It's when they're in the Millennium Falcon, and it's Lando and it's everybody, and they're escaping from like this vortex or something in this giant
Oh,
whale.
yeah.
And I don't know how I got bored by that because that's like a bunch of stuff that I love in one scene, and it felt like it went
It's
on
lifeless.
forever. It's lifeless.
The whole
And it-
movie is hollow and lifeless.
I got
Yeah.
to agree.
But did you like it though?
Now, now the funny thing is because of this, then no one expects a Star Wars film to do like 300 million. You know, you want this.
Finally, I'm right.
It's a Star Wars film. Hey, you're going to get close to $1 billion. It did okay. It didn't do
Right.
phenomenal
It's the
business.
first one that had
and the
disappointing
fans
That film had a lot of
now
problems
because
from the
of
beginning.
this.
They had the guys that were doing the Lego movie were going to direct it.
my
and they got pulled out of
my
it, yeah.
understanding, my understanding was there were other plans for other offshoot Star Wars films. That has changed.
Well, this Obi-Wan,
that-
the
Yeah.
Obi-Wan movie won't happen
You know,
now.
exactly.
But you know what's interesting is like the TV universe that's now springing from it because like now
That I'm interested
like
in.
the Mandalorian show with
That
Jon
I'm
Favreau.
interested in.
Are there
I think
two
that might
different
be the
series?
better place for things like these stories. Like that might be the problem is they try to make
give it a
movie.
Game of Thrones feel
Yeah.
could be the thing that makes it interesting again.
like maybe
Maybe.
maybe if we could reset the clock and they did Solo as a TV series as opposed to try to squish it into a movie, that it might have been more interesting or it might have had.
I think you might be right.
Right.
So again,
Might
you
have
brought
been
up Game of Thrones. So my understanding for people who don't know, the two guys who are responsible for bringing Game of
Yes.
Thrones to HBO.
Yes.
Benioff and Weiss.
And so these guys have been hired by Disney
I'm
now
excited
to
about it.
now, and so they have these guys. They're novel guys. You know, they understand story. They understand conflict. It will be interesting. Now, although there's a lot of controversy about the last two seasons. Okay,
I'm not
but
on that
regardless,
boat, yeah.
it will be interesting to see this whole Star Wars world in the hands of these different people.
But isn't
What I
there-
hear is they're going to give them total control, and nobody can say no to them.
wow.
But isn't there a
bet that's
second
true.
series too? Isn't there also what's his name who made Iron Man films and
John Favreau, he's
isn't
doing the Mandalorian.
he doing a set? So there's two series.
Yeah,
being
well,
made.
they're doing a whole Disney Channel. Hey, you're welcome, Disney. Here's your pitch. There's about to be a thing called Disney Plus, and it will have all the Star Wars stuff
Wow.
and new
Okay.
series, original series, the way Netflix and Amazon.
Yeah.
make-
Right.
Like Amazon Prime is now making great original series like The Boys.
Which we'll talk about.
Save it.
But the cha-ching. And so but Disney Plus is going to do that for Star Wars, which
Yeah.
I'm actually really excited about because as a Star Wars fan, gimme.
Sure,
But
yeah.
I'll watch every single one. I'm telling you.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
I'm always rooting for it.
quality
That's
a quality like episodic TV series could be great because it's a universe that you can do so much with.
It's a rich universe, and not everybody seems to no, like I feel like people want to reinvent the wheel when they get inside and they get their hands on Star Wars. It's like, it's time to fix it. And it doesn't always need to be fixed. It needs to be understood. That's my feeling.
That is so well said.
Thank you.
And getting back to the Star Trek comparisons, one of the things that you guys were talking about when it comes to a series is with a series, I think with all these movies, there's so much writing on it and there's so much money put into it. It feels forced. But with a show, maybe you get a little time to breathe.
You just kind of like, settle in.
And maybe and develop the characters a little more.
Right. That was my problem with Rogue One. Is Rogue One?
It's a little light.
Is
rushed.
It is
terrible character.
Like I wanted to
they're not terrible characters. They're just a little bit thin.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. Thin characters.
Yeah.
The meat is there. It just needs to be fattened.
Yeah.
So it's like we're excited. There's this new stuff. Now we're in 2019. We are going to be having the Rise of Skywalker,
in which J.J. Abrams is coming back as director.
I'm happy about
now,
that.
the funny thing about this is you have The Last Jedi. I agree with Sean on a lot of the issues that he had. I mean, I felt the same way. So I'm wondering to tie everything together in this last film. It's going to be interesting. Like Matt said, look, I'm going to root for it.
Yeah.
And I hope I come out of there going, hey, this is the great one. This is the one, I was hoping for. But
I thought too.
I want to know how they fix this.
Yeah, but I thought at the end of Last Jedi, I didn't know they're like at the end of Last Jedi. I thought they would go into another time period after that for another one. Like I know it looks like it's more of a direct sequel.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a whole other era with new characters and new actors. But I mean,
I love the trailer. Backwards flip, cutting a TIE fighter.
Well, and the one thing, Sean, I mean, I know you had issues, but the one thing that you and I agreed on that we both liked is whereas that with the whole Phantom Menace and stuff, it was like, oh, I have a certain chemical in my blood. That is gone.
Yeah.
Now it's like, you know what? It doesn't matter who's part of what family. It's what's inside you.
One of my friends,
that's not a bad idea. Yeah,
a friend of mine had a huge problem with Last Jedi specifically because of the ending. He's like, and there's even been funny memes about it too. Like Broom Boy, he's now a character. He can summon a broom to himself.
Well, where's the action figure?
But you see, but Derek, the whole point is
I made a broom.
This is the point that I fell in love with Star Wars, that the Force is strong with anyone, and it's like how strong it is.
Because a farm boy could channel the Force
or Broom Boy, that didn't bother me.
Right.
To me, it fixed something that was so damaging in that second series of films.
And what's wonderful about that scene, and I agree with you, is that this is like we were saying earlier about the Phantom Menace. It's a new generation, and now it's another new generation with these reboots. So while that original Star Wars, it really, every kid wanted to be a Jedi.
Yeah.
And it's recapturing that wonderfully with those scenes. It's speaking to the children, to the youth who want to have those powers, who want to be immersed in the world. And it is, I love that scene. That made me happy.
See, I wanted to be a clone. I want to be part of something bigger,
But one of the points that
Larry was making?
I'm sorry. I was interrupted.
We do it all the time.
Sorry.
Listen, Lawrence.
Did anyone ever call you Lawrence?
Sure.
One of the points that you were making that was valid, though, is like, where did this midichlorians bullshit that came from Phantom Menace, why did that disappear?
Yeah.
Because there was no reason for that to go poof, and also no reason to interject it. Although
it's like trying to throw science fiction in that you didn't need.
You're right.
See, Derek, I was waiting for the line. I was waiting for the line. Some people believe that to have the Force, you needed this, but the truth is that's not the case.
And maybe we'll get that in Rise of Skywalker.
I don't know.
It's been with us all along.
With the new order that you talk about watching the films in, how does the midichlorians?
Do
they work
Phantom
in that?
Menace entirely.
Oh, right. That's
you
right.
leave it out.
Are they mentioned in Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith? Okay, they're right.
If you just drop Phantom Menace,
flush that one down the
treat it like a holiday special, and just don't treat it as canon. You'll have a great time watching these.
Where's that
movies.
spin-off series?
Now look,
midichlorians.
Maybe I'm going out on a limb here, okay? But I will say some people were very nervous when Lucas decided to sell the whole Star Wars franchise to Disney. But for me, I was actually happy because I thought
Me too.
Lucas, I think, tired of it.
Yes.
He wasn't doing it right. And Disney, There's all kinds of creative people that they have access to, people who are fans. I know that, Sean, we have an issue with The Last Jedi, but I'd still like The Last Jedi way over any of those second series, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, or Revenge of the Sith.
No, I cannot agree with that.
I do not agree with that either.
No.
Really? Well,
I like
there's so
what's
many-
the last one?
Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, I like that.
Revenge of the
I like
Sith
that one
more
better
than
than
the
the last
Last
there,
one.
there are more egregious problems, I guess, in The Last Jedi than story-wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have to
I think
probably...
they're unforgivable to have
Yeah.
gotten to this
Yeah.
point and still make mistakes like that.
That's true,
And it's
yeah.
like
I guess
it's part of it is the decision. Let's give it to the guy who made Looper.
Yeah.
Looper? What the fuck? No, you give it to Spielberg. You give it to somebody with more, who
Right.
knows what the fuck he's doing.
Well, don't give it to Spielberg.
The biggest problem with both of those films, The Last Jedi and Revenge of the Sith, is that, well, Revenge of the Sith especially, it's really forgettable. Like, I cannot remember a single plot. I think there were Wookiees.
Yeah,
at one
me
point.
too. That's true. I
It's
haven't
really
watched it in a
hazy.
while, but
yeah.
yeah.
Like with Last Jedi, I remember the scenes that really teaved me off. Or
Oh, I
remember
thought you were
the-
talking
the-
about
the
Last
few that I
Jedi.
really liked.
Revenge of the Sith. I remember
Yeah.
the whole ending of that.
Yeah, no,
which to me, the fact that you build to that end, which is pretty cool, and and
There's some powerful stuff
Yeah.
in Revenge of the
Yeah,
Sith.
yeah.
But there's
him
no ending. Like I don't.
No, but
the only things I remember about Last Jedi are terrible things.
Yeah,
That's true.
But there's things about Revenge of the Sith too that I'd like to forget. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also
cheesy.
like, but but then there's him striking down
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
those
There's,
kids.
It's look.
Yeah.
where
That was
he's that dark.
It's the choice
true.
of like you have to eat 2 turds.
Right.
And what did the person who shot this eat?
So I think about Attack of the Clones.
One of them
too,
has
like,
a peanut in
there's
it.
There's a moment
One
in
doesn't.
But there's a beat in Attack of the Clones that I absolutely love. It stands out as a powerful moment in those otherwise, like you said, forgettable prequels. But there's a scene where Anakin goes and rescues his mother from the Sand People.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a moment where she dies in his arms, and he looks. Hayden Christensen, great moment. He looks up and is like, "Oh, meet Darth Vader."
Yeah.
And then he goes out and and to Lucas's discredit, he didn't just show the slaughter. Apparently, he filmed it and then didn't put it in the movie like Han's shooting first. But apparently, there was a great slaughter moment where he just kills the entire
went
Tusken
nuts,
Raider tribe,
yeah.
and it's like that's powerful. That's
Yeah.
important for that character
Right.
because it's like he loses the last little bit of whatever that kid he was
Right.
that we were rooting for in Phantom Menace.
Right.
Go ahead.
Tusken Raiders have it coming.
Jane.
They do have it coming.
Continuity issue. I don't know if anyone else has thought of this, but toward the end of Jedi, when Luke asks Leia, "What do you remember about your mother?" and she says, "Well, I remember her being pretty sad." But if you go to Revenge of the Sith, their mother died in childbirth. There was no way she could
might have been
remember.
talking about her
Yeah.
adopted mother,
Yeah.
though. 'Cause
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Maybe.
just thinking
Yeah.
because
Wow,
like,
you are
That's
You
always,
are
that's
really
always
pulling
bug-
out the
that's-
red pen.
That's bugged me. That's
well,
always
no, but
bugged
you
me.
got a good point
Yeah.
because because her mother
Right.
dies at birth and
Right.
they both are separated. But
No, they
but
were
I'm wondering
separated.
if she's talking about
The adopted mother.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
because Captain Antilles was
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
yeah.
like his wife was probably the one.
Why do you hate the Antilles?
the
family?
Organas? Like that.
Or
la-
Jimmy
that raised-
Smith.
What did they ever
we
do
don't
to
really
you?
know what Jimmy Smith's wife what happened to her.
You know, a lot of people have asked. You know, some people were very surprised that why would Lucas even bother to sell the Star Wars? I mean, he always wanted control, but he had a relationship with Disney early on. You know, and the funny thing is, back in 1990, when Dale Pollock took his Skywalking book and he revisited Lucas and he updated the interview, and I just wanted to read you a little something. This is back in 1990.
Now, who is speaking?
Dale Pollock is asking George Lucas. Okay. He says, there are times when Lucas is ready to chuck the whole thing. This is 1990.
Right.
Walking across Elstree Studios during the filming of Jedi, he fantasizes selling Star Wars, the concept, the characters, and the plots for all 6 films. He goes on, what if the inheritor of Star Wars Legacy screwed up and made a lousy movie? Wouldn't that be painful? Lucas says, not at all. I've always thought I did a bad job. This is Lucas, okay? This might make me feel better. To some people, the idea of Lucas selling Star Wars is like Moses auctioning off the 10 Commandments. It may not be prudent from a business point of view either. 6 Star Wars movies could easily sell $1 billion worth of tickets. Lucas is just perverse enough to do it. However, there are other things in life. He was sick and tired of this whole
In
thing.
1990.
This is 1990.
Well, and then when did
Motherfucker
Star? When
can't
did
be
Star,
happy with anything.
When did Star Tours open?
That was
1983?
No, it was a little
84?
later. It was later than that, but it was
86,
around.
yeah.
It was around that time. But he always knew that Disney is this ongoing company. That's the creative stuff.
Did he
and it's
direct
like-
Star Tours?
No,
He
no,
was
no.
part of
He
it,
was part of it,
opening
but he
it,
didn't.
though.
He
Because
didn't
that
direct
is
it.
that is my third favorite Star Wars film. It really is.
But
I know, it's lovely.
But what's interesting, what was really funny is when he mentions, when Pollock mentions that it's kind of like Moses handing over the Ten Commandments.
I thought that was Lucas talking for a second.
But
I was like, wow.
the funny thing is, Charlton Heston donated the staff of Moses to Disney. And what's really funny is I remember seeing he gave it to Mickey Mouse, and Mickey Mouse was holding up the staff of Moses. I thought, oh, that's really weird, because Mickey Mouse was holding it. I've got the staff of Moses, hooray!
I'm gonna go up on the mountain and write the new commandments.
But getting back to Lucas unloading it for $4 billion, now he has more money than he ever needs. He's going to donate a lot. You can't spend that kind of money in the whatever life that he has. So it's like now he can go off. He says, maybe I'm going to do my own experimental film.
He'll do a special edition of Radio Days.
Yeah, but with Disney,
The fans have been clamoring for it.
however you feel, they're trying. They want to make this work. They want to create this world, which they've done. They've created Star Wars Land as a part of Disneyland, which just opened. People are so excited about it, and you look at the
No way
footage.
you're not going to love that.
No, I mean the funny thing is you look at the detail. I mean the detail on the Millennium Falcon and this whole set piece
No,
is
it's totally
now,
cool.
Granted,
It's gonna
there's
be
only
really cool.
one ride right now. There's going to be a second one, but think about it. They did it right, and so generation after generation of people who go to Disneyland. Now I'm going to go to Star Wars Land.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And it is
So-
that kind of like incredibly powerful and healthy franchise that I think it's gone beyond every generation. It transcends every generation.
At its heart, here's what I love about Star Wars so much that has stayed with me since I was 10 years old is the story of that
Slave girl.
Okay, got it out of you?
Yeah.
Okay, so the part of it that was so great about it was a story that said, even if you're, and this is what we were alluding to earlier, even if you're a nobody, you can find the power within your own heart to overcome the greatest odds and conquer the greatest evil. And even when all seems lost, people that you don't think will have your back will show up and be there for you. And together you can accomplish something beyond imagination, beyond the realm of life and death. That even the people that are guiding you in life, even if they go away, they don't fully leave you.
Right.
Those elements are so rich and so interwoven into the tapestry of human mythology and religion that there's a lovely combination of all those pieces in the original idea that makes Star Wars resonate in a way that, you want to believe there's power in a lightsaber. You want to believe that there's more to you than the people see. You might just look like a farm boy to everybody else, but you might be a Jedi Master.
And everything that you said, this is one reason why, as a Star Wars fan, it's like Matt has brought up, and he's absolutely right. You forgive some of the bad stuff, and you're always hopeful. Well,
You're
the
waiting
next
for
one,
another moment that'll
because
hit you like that.
it's
Because
like,
you remember when it was great, it was so great.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's true.
I mean, it was so great. I mean, like you, Derek, I collected Star Wars figures. I mean, my goal was to collect all of them, which I did. I had every figure. The play sets, the vehicles. I did the mail away thing for the display, which I have here on the table with all of my original figures. And the funny thing is, if you still have these figures and they're in good shape, they're worth a lot of money. Even if you have some in a package, still mint in package, they're worth a ton of money. But here we are in 2019, Hasbro, who actually owns the rights, are re-releasing these original figures. And there was when this was announced, I've been dealing with other Star Wars collectors, and I posed this thing on Facebook. I said, "Oh my gosh, with this news, isn't that going to affect the price of classic figures?" And this guy says to me, "Absolutely not." And I'm all, no. Think of it this way. If you have a mint and package Luke Skywalker from 1978, okay, it sells for, let's say, $2,000. Well, now it's like, oh my gosh, that's so much money. I can get this reissued figure for $9.99. And you know what? Because that $2,000 is too much money. So I'm going to get this one that's only $9. So now the demand for that $2,000 figure, it's going to go down.
I disagree.
No,
I don't agree either.
It'll still be the 1977 original one,
Right.
And they actually, and the packaging, they actually do a faux retro, aging on it, and also it says with a big stamp on the package, this is like a recreation. So it's not like it's the one.
No.
Because people make knockoffs of like the Mona Lisa. Does that make the Mona Lisa any less valuable?
But see, here's the funny. Well,
And here's another interjection before we get
start
away from
ranting
it.
and raving.
No, I just want to just say back when they were re-releasing those new Power of the Force figures where they were overly muscular and all that.
God, those
they
are
put
hot.
out an early bird set of these.
Yeah, I remember.
And there is a package out there that has reproductions of those original figures.
Yeah.
So they've already done it once, and it certainly didn't drive down the price of these.
Especially for the
I agree with that.
hardcore Star Wars collectors. I don't think nothing's.
Oh, it
gonna,
has
they're-
to be
they're
the-
gonna-
It has to be the original.
one.
Yeah.
You're like that. You're the guy who's like,
Yeah,
no,
but-
it's got to be the
If
original.
I could buy a print 8x10 glossy of William Shatner with his autograph already stamped on it, it wouldn't be the same as having an autographed picture of William Shatner.
Well,
and a kid, if you want to give it to a kid will play with anything.
Right.
They'll
It's
play
almost
with,
better to
Yeah.
give it to a kid.
Well, I
just if you give them matches and some pudding.
Well, I guess only time will tell.
Yeah.
But one of the big goals that I was trying to do was the large figures that came out in 1979, just before Empire
Yes.
was released. Those are the ones I really wanted. They didn't sell very well,
No.
and they only came out that first year. And my goal, and I've told this on another episode, where it was my goal to try to find every one, which I did. And I have all of the
too.
Kenner. You have all of them.
I have all
Do you
of
have
them.
the boxes?
I have Obi-Wan in the box.
Do you have the box? Oh, you only have one?
I have only one in the box.
See,
'Cause I
now-
found them at conventions and stuff. I actually
Collection bully.
That's
Collection
very nice.
bully.
That's very
I
nice.
traded original. I
See,
traded original
see that?
Wolverine
That's him
art.
trying to win.
No,
you win.
No, it's
Yeah,
me.
no,
okay.
yeah, you win,
No,
Larry.
No,
You got all the
no
boxes.
one's winning. No
We
one's
all-
winning.
No, I never expect. I don't actually really care if I have packaging or not.
How do you like that?
I just don't.
Yeah.
To me, it's like
imagine that different people with different views on what they like and how they collect.
I look around Matt's room, and this is what influenced me to want to be a collector when I was younger. But like,
Oh
to
yeah,
me-
just shit all that away. Like poor Matt and his open package toys that he enjoys and loves and touches.
Derek discovers he's stumbled into a lover's quarrel.
No.
Look,
I
you know what?
I see.
We're gonna kiss and make up.
Yes,
There's-
yes.
The
Right now?
bathwater is
Let me
still.
watch.
Look,
Come
The
on.
bathwater's
Get
warm.
the camera ready.
We're gonna
I-
dip into it once we stop recording.
I see your point.
No, you don't. Said with such venom.
Larry, I'm just happy to have them.
Right.
Because for me, like these
Yeah.
things were denied to me as a kid, and this is one of the things I was going to bring up
Denied,
earlier.
Larry.
They were.
They were denied
I
to
had
you?
I had to earn these.
He had to earn them.
What do you mean you had to earn?
I had to
you
get
had to
good,
do your
I
home,
had-
mow
if
the lawn.
If I
and-
got good grades, I got a Darth Vader figure as a result of a
you,
good.
you didn't collect aluminum cans and stuff like that.
No,
You get
I money came from my parents, and I had to earn the money from them. And so my access to Star Wars figures, the only time I got busted for shoplifting in my youth was I was trying to get a Walrus Man out the door, and I got
Right.
caught, and I never did it again. But my
That's
God,
awesome.
Ooh, I never did anything.
Nerd
like that.
crimes.
Yeah,
Terrifying.
That's
right. The one
I had
the-
a good method.
The
Though.
one
Almost
weird.
worked.
Okay,
What was it?
I said I needed to look at all the figures.
Yeah.
Took them to the back of the store and brought 3 of them back. When I actually took 4 to the back of the store, one of them fell in my bag.
Oh,
But that was on camera or something.
I was
How did they?
8.
How they?
No,
Wow,
I was
that's pretty good
8
for
or
an
10.
8-year-old.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was
Let
like,
me-
so yeah. But then I said I made the mistake because I remember they said
Walking out and saying,
no, you
"I'm
need-
not stealing anything."
that was my next method. No, but I remember like you had to have a receipt. I didn't realize your receipt had to tell what you bought on it. I just realized you had to have a receipt, and it occurred to me, I'm like, I don't have my receipt.
Did you write in crayon like
all
Walrus?
Worse.
Spelled
Worse.
wrong.
I walked back up to the lady and I said, I need my receipt. She goes, didn't I give it to you? Let me look in your bag. And I got busted. Had I just left, that would have been fine. But you know what?
Hilarious.
It kept me from a life of
That's
crime.
true. Yeah.
true.
Now I will
The
say
force
that
was strong in you.
the only thing I'm going to tell you that it really isn't a crime because it really wasn't something that they sold. But let's see if you remember this. Do you remember when these first figures came out in 1978?
I do.
There was a special display. It was a cardboard display. It had like a vacuum form bottom that the figures were put in a slot, and then there was this background.
Yes.
So there were only 3 figures left. I took those 3 figures, and then I picked up the box, that the display, and I walked with them. And so I bought the figures, and I go, can I just take this? Because this is the cardboard display. She goes, you want to take that display? I don't know. And then I picked up the background, and I go, well, what if I just took the background? And she goes, all right. So I took the background, which is like an idiot. I should have just tried to keep pushing to try to take the whole box, because if I had that, that's worth over $2,000 now.
Jeez.
Now,
Now, if you would have just pulled your dick out and just slapped it all over the thing, and like, what do you
see? Now,
what do you think? Should I take it now?
no. See, why I'm talking about something that's heartfelt about
My
my childhood,
childhood.
and you bring up this foul thing.
What? Your penis is foul?
No, it's like, why do you need to like bring everything down like that?
I see. I see it as logic. That's a perfect
You really
crime.
think at the store?
Everybody wins.
At the store, you
People
unzip
get to see your
pants.
penis. You get to pull out your
No,
penis.
they call security.
Your penis gets you
get
Star Wars thing.
security. Hello, you're Mr. Hooligan.
How old were you
though.
at the time?
No,
Mr.
I was what 14.
For
you know?
perfect age.
So no, I've prepubescent
Especially if it was
kid.
hard.
No. See, that's terrible. And I want to get off this right away. I just want to say I went out of my way to get all the large action figures. They're one of the most precious Star
you
Wars
have them all in the
pieces.
package?
A Minton package? They're not all Minton
I'm just
package.
saying, do you have
Oh, you don't have them all
packages for
Minton
everybody?
package, huh?
Well, here lies
there's a guy in
tale.
Albuquerque who has them all
Yeah,
in mint package.
yeah.
I have them.
You lose.
Except one. And to this day, it bugs the hell out of me.
I'm sure it does.
I remember.
Walrus
No, they didn't make a Walrus Man 12 inch figure.
Go ahead.
It was the most
What is
valuable
it?
box is IG-88, and I remember taking IG-88 out of the
Fucking
box,
robot.
He's the
and I
only one
remember
I don't
folding.
have.
I remember folding the box and sliding it under my bureau.
Oh.
Somehow, somewhere, someone in my family took it and tossed it or something because I could not find it. I remember going look like a couple years later. Oh, I have that box. I remember trying to look for it. Where is that box? I put it under here. It was gone.
God
it
bless
was
every family member that threw out something, because that's what makes collectibles. You know,
I just
Right. Look at
picture one of his brothers like turning it into a bong.
No, but there was a lot of
that's
I
a
mean,
horrible
look,
feeling.
my
No, that's
brothers
terrible.
listen to the show. They know there was a lot of animosity in the growing up, and
Oh, yeah, there was.
and so I'm sure that one of my brothers said, damn Larry, I'll get you and I'll take your stupid
sorry,
box.
Larry.
It's all
Let me
right.
ask you something.
I have the
Can
others.
I ask you something about your brothers? Just
Yeah.
really.
They're all lovely people.
I know that
now.
they are. I know that.
They're
but
all wonderful.
This is
Love
not
them
about
all.
them. I'm just curious because you will describe things that your brother will do something like that. Now, what did you do that pissed off your brothers?
Now I don't.
Do you have
think-
anything?
Well, I don't think
Give me
this
a
is
small
No,
one.
I don't think this is the show for that. This show is about Star Wars.
If not now,
No.
when?
We'll do that. We'll maybe a
the
nerd
story of a
nerd crime
older
show.
brother that really loved BJ and
But
the
you know,
bear.
but Derek, you know what's funny is
That's one.
I will say this. You mentioned the toys really quickly,
Yeah.
okay? So Hasbro's coming out with these retro figures. You don't think that's going to change the price, but
don't.
the funny thing is, do you remember when we were growing up? It seems like there was a wall of Star Wars figures.
Yeah.
Now there's Star Wars figures, but there's not as much.
Well, you also just
know,
don't.
there's a glut, don't
but
you think?
Absolutely, and that's actually why I don't mind this so much, because they're not for these retro figures that are re-releasing.
Yeah.
are for you and me.
Right, that's
Like
true.
the only people that are going to buy
They're
those.
not for Owen.
No, Owen doesn't give a shit about that. Though,
And you
Owen
know
looks
why?
at-
Because they're not that great of figures.
Well, it's
Well, yeah, it's the retro
To you.
aspect of it.
To
But-
but to him.
no
To young,
absolutely
to young
him.
Owen,
Owen, does
who
this-
is
does
who
this
has
give you
lived
the
his
feels at
life
all?
in a world of quality.
Here, let me. Owen, does this? When you look at Larry's display here, does this give you the feels at all?
Yes and no. Mostly because I grew up playing with your toys when I was a little kid.
Okay, all
So
right.
they do speak to me, but not to the same capacity. I will say
Right,
that I
right.
have been spoiled by by
Quality.
opposable arms.
There you
But,
go.
but when you say the toys too, it's not just Star Wars. That now there's a toy
Everything.
line for everything.
Absolutely,
and,
and,
you know,
stuff
so-
that doesn't even deserve it, which is
And the
part of-
park,
a lot
the
of
park is now Disneyland's going to have their own.
Oh, my
their
God.
stuff.
It's already
Yeah.
happening.
Yes.
But when I look at this stuff, where I go back to is that here's the magic of the original Star Wars from 1977 is that there was a time where you had to wait. And
That's
that
true. Right.
wait
Yeah.
created a vacuum of imagination. And what happened in that time was when I saw Star Wars for the first time, I thought I would never see it again.
Yeah.
When it left the theaters,
Yeah.
I thought it was gone forever.
right.
And you were kind of right.
And I was right. And
Right.
so the thing that happened, so when I got that Story of Star Wars album,
Yeah.
holy shit, I had a little piece
Right.
of the
A little
movie
more,
back.
yeah.
And then I had that vacuum of I can't see it. And then these came out.
Well-
and so I could actually perform the movie to the record as best I could remember it. And then when that wasn't enough, there was more toys, and
there's
then I
Marvel
could get them
comics
all.
For my
Yeah.
world,
And then I started
it was
writing
Super
my-
8.
Right.
Right.
But then I started
17 minutes of it.
But I
And-
started to write my own stories.
Right.
I started to create my own Star Wars stories
Yeah.
because I had these figures to say, okay, now we're going to go, and I made up my own worlds. And that I would actually say a lot of the reason that I had a successful career as a creative person comes back to those damn toys.
Yeah. No,
And
I get that.
still love them.
Yeah.
And it's the reason my room is surrounding me. I surround myself with this stuff to this day
Yeah.
because I need to blow on that little ember of that 10-year-old boy who wanted to create simply from the joy of creating.
Well, and that's why, I don't know how many times you'll hear somebody tell a story of in my house now we don't have a TV because I want our kids to have imagination.
TV's
It's all
wonderful.
look, TV is just a tool. It's a
Right.
device.
It has an off button.
Yeah, and you can change channels. You
Right.
can find stuff that appeals to your imagination. And I'm sure that we can all agree that growing up, TV sparked our imagination. We wouldn't
yes.
have half the imagination that we have if that place in our brains wasn't filled up by all these crazy things that we saw
Absolutely.
either on TV or in movies.
And we can agree now that this generation is screwed.
All right, here we go.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is
No, I'm not
and
gonna
this
fight.
is no. Oh, and this
Okay.
is your time. This is the safe zone.
Defend your defend your YouTube.
Your ute. Your ute.
I want to so badly.
Owen,
really
Owen,
want to.
look,
It
you're
is
like
interesting,
minutes
though.
away from 18. This is your chance. This is your safe zone.
All right.
He's been
All right.
asking for this for fucking years.
Defend my generation.
No, I didn't say that.
You did. Somebody said that. Yeah, he said that.
I said give it to your dad.
Tell my dad. Listen here, boomer.
Boomer.
Generation X.
Boomer.
That's what you tell people.
Boomer. I thought he was was this like a Battlestar Galactica thing? Yeah, right. Listen, Boomer.
Trump is a baby boomer.
No, but
what you would be? Yeah, you're Generation X. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
Generation-
I'm on the line of
Yeah,
Boomer.
yeah.
But
Yeah, we're
you're
all-
saying
yeah.
your generation, you have access to all these figures, every every
Not just
TV show, everything,
every media and every media
anything.
at the palm of your hand in your
Absolutely,
phone. I mean,
yeah.
like you have, it's just
Immediate.
interesting because you have no idea what it was like. We've talked about this many times about finding an old movie on TV and
No,
staying up to see it because we'll never see it again. That same idea,
Yes, yeah.
the media and the all this creative kind of stuff you have at your fingertips now.
Oh, yeah.
which that's what you're. I mean, which is great in one way, but I guess I don't know.
It's weird. It's a weird thing.
What's your Star Wars?
Yeah, do you have something that is for your generation?
It's really tough because for me, I'd say my Star Wars for my generation or for me personally.
personally.
For me personally, Back to the Future.
Don't
Back to the
really?
Future is my Star Wars.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Back
the
to the
movie-
Future?
It's
yes,
fun.
I
Really?
hold it at this weird level, and I will not try to defend it because it has
No, but
so
a lot of
many
people do.
problems.
A lot of people.
But I love Back to the Future so much.
Mm-hmm.
It gives me this nostalgia like nothing else on
a
the
lot
world.
of people. I think one generation right before you feels the same way about Gremlins and
Goonies.
Yes. Oh,
Goonies.
Goonies.
Those
Yeah,
are
a lot.
revered.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
I mean, and it's just that I think it has to do with that time of age when you see them, though.
And Logan's
exactly.
Run. We're all Logan's Run
Yeah,
fans.
yeah.
And I don't think any of us would really defend it as like it's not like
it's not
the
a
pinnacle.
masterpiece, but
no,
it's-
I mean it's
It
fun,
drags
but-
on
but
in the third act, but it's a good movie.
I'm not going to argue there.
Yeah.
But I do. I love. But
Yeah,
I
there's a
love
lot
it,
of
though.
walking around in the
Oh, yeah.
jungle.
I love those cats.
DC.
Oh, the cats are that
the
old
third
man.
act cat
Catman.
beat.
Catman.
Yeah.
My
But I
friend
still love that movie.
Oh,
I-
yeah.
I've
But,
seen it
but
many,
also,
many
but
times.
probably you wouldn't love it as much if you had seen it maybe 4 years later.
Oh yeah.
Maybe,
in your
yeah.
life.
Yeah, I mean, there's
I'm
definitely
guessing.
that nostalgic aspect to it. You know,
Well, I mean, but it's interesting to me that, like, of all the films that Owen might have said, like, Back to the Future surprises me because talk about something that he shouldn't relate to whatsoever.
well, that's true. That's the
It's
80s,
about a
right.
teenager that was my teenage years. Like Marty McFly was more me
That's
than
true.
it would ever be Owen. And then Marty McFly was immersing himself in the world of the doo-wop 50s.
Right,
Which
right.
is something else Owen doesn't have a whole lot of experience with. So I'm curious. Like,
Have you heard him sing?
Well, he sings very well. But the irony is that, you know, I want to bring it kind of full circle to why Star Wars resonated for our generation, because this was the
Let's take the focus away from Owen and Back to the Future.
right. But earlier what you were asking is why this movie? I think that was your question, Sean. Like, why this movie? What made this movie go boom and then resonate
Right.
through another 4 decades? And I want to say the same thing about Back to the Future. Like, why does it reach Owen, who was born at a time when none of that is relevant to him,
Right.
and yet he sees that and it gives him all the feels? Like, what do you think?
Well, you know, it's weird because I don't remember the first time. Unlike you guys, I don't remember the first time I saw Back to the Future because I got the pleasure of seeing it. This is a gift to my generation, is that I got to see it. I'm pretty sure I was around 8 or 9 when I saw Back to the Future for the first time, and I don't even think I liked it when I first saw it. But the thing is,
Was it on a lot?
it wasn't even.
Okay.
I remember we had those Back to the Future DVDs like packed away in the back, and it was like there's old DVDs. We didn't even get them till in Blu-ray for a while.
God.
Yeah, right. God, it's unbearable.
Barbarians.
Terrible,
Yeah.
terrible. No,
Stone Age.
yeah. No, it's. I'm very lucky to grow up in the generation I can't.
You
where I
are.
can just yes, I'm privileged. But I'm very lucky to grow up in the generation where I can just watch these things that influence me to this day, as much as I want to.
Right, right.
I don't know. It's not the
just-
same thing,
yeah,
but it's still the same
it's
thing.
diff- yeah, I
yeah.
mean,
It's the same but different.
Yeah.
which I
Now-
think it goes for a lot of generations.
Can I ask you just a question, going a little bit off the Star Wars thing, just for a second? But
Yeah, yeah.
when it comes to considering how much stuff there is out there, a lot of the things that we watched
Yeah, there's
growing
so
up,
much.
we were growing up, we saw a lot of things that we might not have normally been exposed to because there were 3 channels.
Yeah.
And you
Like-
watched
like
what
how-
was
Oh,
on.
yeah.
Yeah, how do you
exactly.
zone in on
So
what
how,
you like?
as someone your age and your friends,
Yeah.
like how does someone even find something that's obscure, like an old movie? Or...
I'll tell you, man, it's a challenge. It's really, there's so much stuff out there, and you never feel like you're experiencing all of it, which is kind of disheartening, personally. I hate the fact that there's some amazing thing out there that I'm missing out on simply because I don't have the energy to store more information in my brain. But I will say,
Good news too, though.
having a good dad like mine guide you through these classic films, bringing you through like, okay, look, this you
Showing-
gotta watch this. You gotta watch. We just watched. What was it we watched the other night, Matt? You and I.
That was Bad Day at Black Rock.
Bad Day at Black Rock. Going
great
all
movie.
the way back, classic Twilight Zone. Going all
Yeah,
the way
see,
back
that's-
through those
that's great,
classic
too.
films,
like to expose
and classic
right,
shows.
exposing
It's-
to other generations of stuff. like that.
absolutely, and I'm honestly blessed to have a dad who's been close enough
Okay.
with me. Okay, no, but
that's-
fine.
we-
I'm
we-
gonna,
we've
I'm gonna
always-
brag about my awesome dad.
I've got all
I'm sorry. What? What was that?
It's the one compliment I got all month. Don't stop him.
But that's been always a running theme with us that we always see how like we have supportive parents
Yes,
who
yeah.
who support our love for this crazy weird stuff that like
But I
doesn't
think
don't
but
you
it's
know.
like I was saying, like we got to blow on the embers of the childhood because this is where our magic was. This is where the world was wonder still. And when
Yeah.
we lose that, we lose the future.
Yeah.
Because if we can't hope or believe beyond our current circumstances, what we believe is that we are just doomed to the grave, which God knows we are.
No.
But if we can at least for a brief moment remember there was a time when we thought we might fly.
Well,
Right.
You
right.
know, and that if we just wished hard enough, that maybe there was something in us that we don't know yet. Because when you're pre-puberty like that, like the whole world is your oyster. You're not set back by the limitations of what your job actually is.
Right.
Or who the
Yeah.
people
Remember,
you
like you
end
could
up-
just look ahead. It was like it was fucking.
You
bright
might be
ahead,
that
like,
magic
yeah,
person. Like
yeah.
that magic person might be you.
And here's the
Right.
thing, though, that I really do love and respect about Star Wars just lasting as long as it has. The legacy of it is that the one thing you can really say about it is that you've got these characters that were created in the 70s, and those characters are as familiar now as they were then.
And they
Yes.
were new
It
characters.
passed down from generations.
And they were new characters at the time.
Right.
Which
Yes,
is what's
yeah.
really
Right.
remarkable about that.
Yes.
Not
And
based
that's
on like
actually-
literature.
and
or
yeah, it's
anything,
not
or-
Robin Hood
Right.
or
And I think that's why we might feel a little protective and possessive with them.
I see
and,
that.
And we might not want to be open to new interpretations of them
Yeah.
or a story that veers away from what we want our narrative to be. Because we
Right.
now live in a time where everybody's opinion gets an equal stage.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's a great
And
moment
posted
in
on the
James,
internet.
there's a good moment in the James Brown movie where he's up there singing, and then a bunch of kids try to get up on stage and start dancing and singing too, and then James Brown just stops the show and he says, "Hey, do you want a show? Or do you want to be the show?" And I'm paraphrasing, but the point
great,
that he
though.
makes though is that, look, I'm up here for a reason. It's my moment to give you a show, and if you want to see a show, go back and sit down and behave yourselves. And they do, because they respected James Brown, as do
yeah.
I. So, but what the point is that now fandoms like that, where we have a moment where like, okay, we got an end of a TV series and everybody's been watching it, but now we all decide that we're the writers and we decide what the show should be.
Yeah.
We don't have the tolerance. I remember being a kid, and if you had a problem with the way a comic book ended, well, damn it, you had to get out your mom's typewriter. And then you had to sit there with liquid paper and try to write a good letter. Type, tap, tap, tap. And if you screwed up, you had to start over with a fresh sheet of paper. Type, tap, tap. And then you had your opinion as best as you could air it, and you sent it in, and an editor would look at it and go, "Fuck you." And then, maybe you'd be that magic kid, and the editor goes, "Hey, good point. Maybe Mr. Fantastic should have thought twice before chewing out the thing." And then you're in there, and Jimmy Smits, and your whole freaking address.
Smits.
I don't know what a Jimmy Schleimenheim, and then and his whole,
good.
but the whole address, and
Yeah.
Like people could
Yeah,
rebut
could-
you,
yeah,
or
that's
come
true.
to your house. I didn't like your Fantastic
the nerd
Four letter,
Unabomber.
right?
Yeah.
Sounds like a typical asshole.
Yeah, no-
So,
yeah.
but you get your letter, your opinion
Yeah,
printed in
yeah.
the comic, and that was like an achievement. Like our George R.R. Martin has a letter printed in a Marvel comic. Fact. He wrote
wow,
into the
cool.
Fantastic Four back in the day,
Really?
and then that guy went on to write Game of Thrones. So what I'm saying is like, and that brings me full circle to like that little bit of magic that you might be that guy. Like he
Right,
went and
right.
said, "Hey, I see a
Yeah.
problem in this story," and he was able to like create his own universe
Right.
because he was not given an equal stage with Stan Lee to stand there and go, "Dear Stan Lee, my name now gets to be as big as yours because
Yeah.
the internet is all equal." And there's a point of like we're losing that. I think we're losing
Sure,
that
yeah.
filter.
No, that's true.
It may be for the better. 'Cause
In some
then
ways.
it may be for the better. It's just different than what we understand.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And his generation, and what I see so much about what his generation, I find it remarkable that he is attracted to Back to the Future because it is so alien to his experience. But then again, so is Star Wars for us.
And that's part of the
Yeah.
fun, right? Is experiencing something that's out of your realm of experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what really caught me Back to the Future is that I related to Marty McFly a whole lot.
Well,
and I don't really know
don't
why.
we all?
Yeah, exactly. Well, he's made to be that character.
Right.
Um,
What comes out to good storytelling too, I think.
Of
You know,
course,
I
yeah.
mean, no matter what, when it was made, or how old or young you are.
And could you make it right now and set it in present day and still tell the same story?
Right.
But but then Lorraine and George are 80s kids.
I personally think you absolutely could do that.
Please, God, no.
But I don't want them to. I'm just saying it is possible. I want them to leave Back to the Future alone for
Thank
as
you.
long as possible.
Thank you very much.
But going back a little bit earlier to something you said, you guys were talking about the social media thing, is it is so disheartening to try to get any projects off the ground right now when everybody has that platform, because not everybody knows what they're talking about. Most people don't know what they're talking about.
Right,
I don't
right.
know what I'm talking
But
about.
they're
and I'm
but they're
talking here.
allowed the same.
But
free
everybody's
reign as everybody else
right.
to like
Everybody's
say what
allowed
they
to
want.
have this be in the same ballpark, and it's disheartening when you're trying to get your project out there, and where you're going to go now. It used to be you'd send it into Marvel, you'd send it into the corporation you want to work for. You post it on the internet now.
Yeah.
That's where all these new projects go, and it's flooding the market. And when the first comment you get on something, when you first put your work out there, is I didn't like it. That is so terrible. You think these writers who spent ages on their craft.
Right.
They
So quick to dismiss something.
So quick to
like-
dismiss.
Yeah, yeah.
Unless it is actually terrible and is just rejected from being published or being made.
Right.
These guys at least had some leeway before they heard, oh, I didn't like it. They had a minute to go.
support,
It's in
some-
production. It's going. They had actual critics go in and critique what they were working on, not James 1115 from Twitter.
And the response time wasn't that fast
Absolutely.
either.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's immediate now. It's just things are coming out left and right, and people are reviewing it.
But that's a valid point, because that's where we go back to why there was a magic for Star Wars. Like, would Empire Strikes Back have been made if everybody at the time? If you go back and read the reviews of the original Star Wars, there were so many people that just panned it.
Yeah, there were a lot of bad
That's true.
reviews.
That is true.
So if those were the only voices that made Star Wars what it was, and everybody had that equal footing, would Star Wars be here 40
I don't
years
know.
later?
Yeah.
So it's an
Right.
interesting time that we live in, where everybody gets, like I said, like the James Brown metaphor, like everybody gets to be on stage with James Brown, and so he can sing and dance and bring his amazing music, but he gets drowned out because everybody's grabbing the mic, and then I don't like that lyric, and then the audience gets to vote halfway through the song. Do you like that last lyric? No, change the end of your song.
There's also that culture now where like people love to like watch something go awry. When big movies are coming out, I heard the production was troubled on that one.
Yeah, yeah.
They're just waiting for it to be to suck, and they get to start talking about it and criticizing already before it's even come out. The message boards go crazy, but criticizing
Strangling
something.
the baby in the crib is the term.
So look,
Yeah.
it is true. We live in a very different time from when you and I saw Star Wars for the first time. But Derek, you and I, we were talking a little off mic a while back about now that Star Wars is owned by Disney, and you had some strong feelings about this large corporation.
Yeah,
owning-
I just don't think that I actually am referring back more to your experience with it, where it's not that much of a surprise.
See, to me,
it's-
I'm happy because it's
So
out
am
of
I.
George's hands.
Well, I think you validly pointed out by reading that excerpt that it should be, and I think George is happier that it's out of his hands.
Yeah.
And God bless him.
Ultimately,
and
yeah.
that guy gave most of his money to like charity. That
no,
before
he
got-
still has a lot. But
No,
yeah, I know.
no, I mean
know
from the
George.
sale. No, but from the sale of that for a
Yeah,
fact,
yeah.
he gave it to education and things like that. Like he knew he already has more
Jar
money.
Jar Binks Institute of Comedy.
Well,
Hey,
now
let's
we
give
can.
credit. Let's give credit where credit is due. But like the man took the sale of that and gave the money away.
Well, that's nice.
and that's a great thing. And so whatever George wanted to accomplish with Star Wars, I think Star Wars defeated him in a way, and I don't think that was his fault. I think he went through a hard lifetime and then tried to do something, and everybody shat on it and hated it, because they deserved it. And
I think that he went through a kind of an insufferable time in his personality where nothing was going to please him.
Well, that-
if it
and-
didn't,
yeah.
if
Because-
it had been shit on and nobody liked it, well, then he would have been carrying that around
Well, then,
as this
but
big
I-
burden, and then it became huge, and then that wasn't good enough.
I don't really want to dissect George Lucas's personality. What I really
I
just
think
want-
that's what we're going to do
Okay.
right now.
on the next episode of Monster Party.
But Derek,
But what
your
I would
point.
like to say is that I think letting it go to the fans is a gift. And what I hope is happening is that, I think there's a rabbit that has already gone down the hole that Hollywood is still chasing, which is saying that every single one of these movies has to be a bigger blockbuster than the movie before it, or it's not valid.
Right.
And that's why we get a movie like Solo, or we get a movie like the prequels, because
I agree.
They're trying to match a recipe that didn't have a recipe. And the recipe of the original film was somebody just doing the film that nobody would let him do. Right now it's like, okay, now do that movie again 15 times, and it's not possible.
Well, it's like somebody go like, we want the new Beatles.
Right, exactly.
You can't do it.
It's like, oh, hey, yeah, Elvis, right. You got this hit with That's All Right Mama. Okay, make a whole album of just That's All Right Mama. And if that song isn't better every time you sing it, then you're a failure.
Yeah, wow, it's kind of, isn't it surprising that it's kind of lifeless towards the end?
Yeah, wow, Jailhouse Rock isn't great 15 times. What's new, pussycat? Whoa. It's a John Mulaney joke, him in a diner. But what's interesting, though, is that if you try to recreate that success, you're not creating, you're recreating. Yeah. But what happens, where the magic happens when somebody is going like, this is the thing nobody's thinking about, and then I'm going to make a movie about that, and then suddenly that's the thing everybody's in love with, and they never see it coming, because that's the recipe, is you need to be creating from the stuff that you loved originally. So if you're going to actually make something new, well, then at least hand it off to the people who are still trying to fan that flame, that little piece of them that go, I love Star Wars, and I do have these ideas. And there's a good chance that if it falls into the right hands, we're going to see some magic again, because the people that at least are making the stuff now loved it like we did. They're us. They're us. Jon Favreau and J.J. Abrams, for whatever you want to say, I know you didn't like his Star Trek movies, but one of the things that inspired his take on the Star Trek movies was his love of Star Wars. And he tried to bring Star Wars into Star Trek. It's a fact.
No, I know. But that's the problem.
I'm not saying they're good or bad. I'm just saying he was inspired by these the way that we were.
I'm not.
Right.
Don't get me started on JJ.
But look,
it's okay to not like him or not like the stuff. But the theme of what I'm trying to say is that his love for this is carrying through, and now he's making movies. He's a kid that grew up in town making movies.
One thing I will say is that when it comes to newer incarnations of older things we love, whether it's J.J. Abrams doing a new Star Trek thing or him doing Star Wars, and we've disagreed on this, and that is that I have Star Wars. I have The Empire Strikes Back. So if they go on and make something new that I don't like, it doesn't ruin the older thing for me.
Right.
And I know, James, we've talked a little bit about this, where when someone makes a prequel to something, it borders on tainting that because it's telling you the original story that now affects the later thing.
You said that about like the Alien films.
The Alien films is a very good example. Yeah. Whereas in my mind, I just ignore the movies I don't like. To me, Alien 3 never happened, or Alien 4.
Right.
I'm with you.
And it's like, and that's why on that same note,
or Prometheus for that matter.
Why that's why that machete cut works, because you choose to ignore Phantom Menace.
I do like that a lot.
Yeah.
I
It's
do
fun.
like that
You
idea.
should try it sometime. It's
Yeah.
refreshing.
Well, Darrick, I want to thank you so much. You've really helped us analyze
And Owen.
Thank you.
Star Wars. And Owen, thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much for having me on.
This has
This
been
is,
awesome.
well, as you can tell, I'm very passionate
No,
about this
I
topic.
understand.
I'm so grateful that I
And
got to come
before
on
we
and talk about this.
wrap this thing up, can we just do a little bit of a mini shout out for the animated series,
Clone
like
Wars.
Clone Wars
And Rebels.
and Rebels.
Rebels is great.
Matt and I were actually talking about Clone Wars a minute ago, and I mentioned that the animated characters in that short series are
The first one, not the
first one.
CGI
Yeah,
one.
not the CGI one.
The
The Clone
guy who
Wars
does
one.
Samurai Jack. Glenn,
Yeah, that guy.
He's great.
Those characters look less wooden, weirdly enough, than the actual actors in the film. So
That's very true.
No, I love those 2D ones. I actually was kind of sad that they went to the CGI, but the stories that are very well written, and that's a good example of like, hey, letting it go into the hands of the people that love this
Again,
stuff.
still-
there is
right.
good stuff to be created.
Playing around in the universe.
Yes.
And like doing this
Gendy
stuff.
and it's-
Tartakovsky
Yeah.
is the guy who did Clone Wars.
good
Who
stuff.
did? I believe he also did Samurai
Samurai
Jack.
Jack.
Yeah,
which
which
I
I
love.
love. Yeah.
yes, he did, and it was very good.
Well, the
Awesome.
world of Star Wars is huge.
It's not
and
going anywhere.
I don't think it's going
a
anywhere
big
for a
place.
while.
And you know what, Larry? we could go on and on.
Matt, we could. Thank you again, Derek,
Hey,
so
I'm
much for being
so
with
happy
Nolan.
to be here.
The
Thank
Now-
force is definitely strong with both of you.
But
Yes.
speaking of passion, you are also working on something that
Yes.
you're very
Derek
passionate
Robertson,
about.
you're on fire right now.
No, you are. Could
You are.
tell us
You have a
about it?
million different projects.
Tell us about what you've
going
got
on?
going.
Thank you.
Give us. Give a
logs in the
pitch
fire
the
here.
fuck out
if
of.
you insist.
Yes, we
Well,
do.
I'm currently drawing a series with Gary Whitta, who wrote Rogue One.
Awesome.
It's a comic
Nice.
for Image Comics called Oliver. It'll be a 12-issue series. Issue 4 is about to come out. Very proud of it. It'll be collected eventually, but run out and pick it up if you can. Because
kind of loosely based on
it's
like
a
Oliver Twist.
steampunk reinterpretation of Oliver Twist set in
Oh, nice.
post-apocalyptic London.
Wow.
Cool.
Love it.
And it's fun and it's well written. It was Gary Whitta's first screenplay, and we decided to adapt it into a comic.
nice.
And while we were working on this, he got tapped to write Star Wars.
How do you like that?
It was
You create
it's
greatness, Derek Robertson.
I'd love to think that. I think it's the other way around. But and then also this July, if you like my work, Amazon
do.
Prime is going to be debuting a series based on a comic book I co-created called The Boys.
The boys.
Starring Carl Urban.
That's amazing.
And,
Great comic. Amazing. Some of your most incredible work.
Thank you.
I really, and I love everything you do, but the artwork in that series just like reaches out and grabs you by the throat.
It was a really fun series to draw, written by the great Garth Ennis.
Oh, yeah.
And they do a very faithful job. I'm gonna just smooch these people because it's the series is run by Supernatural and Timeless and Revolution creator Eric Kripke.
Oh, wow.
Who sought out this series? He did it as a labor of love. He's done it incredible justice. The cast is amazing. All the previews have been very well received. And
It looks great.
I got to see the pilot, and it was wonderful.
Shout out Jack Quaid for just
Jack Quaid plays Huey, and they do their own thing with it, but they capture the spirit.
The
of
spirit of it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great.
That's great.
It's not exactly the comic or the timeline.
And it shouldn't be.
No, and that's what makes it work because
Right.
they went in and
It's
went.
their interpretation of how.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they understand, but they get it, and that's what's really wonderful.
That's
is that
awesome.
if you've read the comic, you'll go, oh, and you'll see those little touch points. But at the same time, it's its own thing, and I couldn't be more happy with it. And they've been wonderful to me. I've got to be on set and watch it being filmed,
Cool.
and
That's
the
awesome,
costumes
man.
look like my costumes. and
That's so
it's been
That's
been a
glorious.
really
That's
it's been
awesome.
Yeah.
and for a self-taught artist from San Mateo,
Sure,
who had
yeah.
an airline
Yeah.
mechanic for
I
a
can live in the
dad.
dream.
It's just pretty amazing to
Yeah,
watch this.
That's amazing.
to
That's
touch.
awesome.
That's great, man.
Like I said, it brings me full circle to what I was saying. It's like that little kid who might believe he could be a Jedi.
Yeah.
I'm getting my lightsaber.
The Force was
right
strong
now.
in you.
You
That's
know,
right.
it's like,
That's
hey,
right.
maybe there's a bigger world for me out there. I've just taken my step into a larger world.
Well, I just want to raise my glass and toast to you and Owen. And
Owen
there's-
Robertson.
You,
Yes.
I
In
think
the house.
there is a little Jedi in all of us. Here's the
That's
Star
how you kids
Wars
say it,
view.
right? In the
Thank you
house?
very much for being with
kind
us.
of, yes.
Cheers, and may the Force be with you.
Force be with you.
Live long and prosper.
and a partridge in a pear tree.
Really?
Time for a listener shout out.
Shout out.
This goes out to Manuel Canary,
All right.
Manuel Canary.
who writes, "Hi guys, big fan of the show here.
Awesome.
My friend Sailor first recommended you to me, and I have since been hooked.
All right.
The incredible knowledge you guys have of the genre is beyond impressive.
It is.
Add to that,
And the ego.
It's most impressive.
the doses of hilarity, and you can see why horror fans like myself have such a blast listening to you guys. Besides heaping praise, the reason I'm messaging is to let you know myself and a couple of friends started our very own horror podcast.
Cool.
What?
Yes. And while we have a long way to go to reach Monster Party heights,
Yeah, well, yeah.
I don't know about that.
no, we have over 140
Okay.
episodes.
Yeah.
we finally put something out there. We
Cool.
wanted to make sure to let you know that your show was a big inspiration for us to do this.
Nice.
And we made sure to at least give you and some other influential podcasts a shout out at the end of our first episode.
Fantastic.
And I have listened to that first episode, and they've given us a very, very kind shout out. So
Cool.
thank you,
That's awesome.
Manuel and guys.
Awesome.
Also, a special thank you for all great movie recommendations you have all passed on, especially the lesser-known titles. The horror obscura episodes are some of my faves.
We like those too, actually.
we have to do another one of those.
Yeah, we do.
I've discovered so many great offbeat flicks from listening to you guys.
Cool.
Best wishes to you all, and keep up the scary work. If you want to give a listen to our first episode, the podcast is on iTunes and is called The Velvet Scream.
Cool. I like
Velvet
that. Good title.
Scream.
Velvet
What a great name.
Scream. Thanks,
Velvet
Manuel.
Screen or Scream?
Scream.
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 As in screaming.
Screaming, yeah.
The Velvet Scream.
The Velvet
Which I would
Scream.
like to think that my scream is a velvet scream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Okay.
Awesome.
And Matt, I think you have an additional shout out.
I do. And this one goes out to our longtime fan and just good buddy, Matt Dakota.
Matt Dakota.
Matt
And
Dakota.
Sig, his son Sig.
Oh, and
Sig.
yes.
Now, not long ago, we invited them over to the house in the studio around the time of Monsterpalooza.
Yeah.
And they both
They're awesome.
came over, and we had food and some drinks, and we watched some 16 millimeter films, and it
Yeah.
was great. And Matt's son Sig is just such a delight. I love that kid.
Yeah.
And it turns out he's a big Kiss fan. He loves Kiss.
Cool.
And so I happened to come into possession of some great Kiss collectible stuff. And so I gave him this journal where the Kiss logo lights up on it.
Oh, nice.
And
Nice.
just forget about even the journal. Like, all I do sometimes is just spend a good hour or two just turning on that little logo, and it flashes. It's great. It's like a little concert in and of itself. But and then I gave him I think it was a Destroyer lunchbox.
Nice.
And he loved it, and so he sent a thank you. And what he sent me was a beautiful little vinyl figure of Red King from Ultraman.
Ultraman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Monster.
really nice figure and just lovely. And then he made a card for me, and the card has a bunch of hearts on it. It's got like he glued on all these like jewels, and it's
From Thanos.
Bedazzled.
It's very fancy. And it says, "To my good buddy Matt from your pal Sig." And then if you open it up, inside it says, "Hi Matt, thank you for the Kiss lunchbox and the Kiss journal. Your house is beautiful. Your Ultraman toys are so cool. I hope to see you at G-Fest. Bye, Matt." Which I need to sign off like that. Just, bye.
That's
But
awesome.
what's also really great, and the thing that warms my heart here, is that in the card he has also provided, he did his own artwork
Nice.
of Ultraman fighting a kaiju.
Cool.
And it's got everything. It's got violence. It's got destroyed buildings, and it's wonderful. And we will show you this. We'll take some pictures.
definitely.
But thank you, Sig, and thanks, Matt, for just raising just a wonderful kid.
yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Also, an added shout out to some listeners who have supported our commentaries from Scream Factory Blu-rays,
Yes.
Vengeance of She and the Alligator People.
Yeah. The vengeance of
You know what?
She.
I hate to say this. I don't want it to sound too egotistical, but great work, everybody.
No, the alligator people, they're both of them.
They're both
of them are
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Namely, Rabbi Stephen Vale, Jeff Williams, and of course, Angela McNichols. Thanks so much.
Yes.
And other listeners who might have gone out and pre-ordered or ordered them, and you know who you are. You have
I would assume you would. Yes.
you have our sincere thanks.
And
Yes,
and
you.
if you go to the next Monsterpalooza in Pasadena, you know, and you bring that Blu-ray, we'll sign them for free.
Sure.
That's right. Yeah.
Am I going out on a limb here?
No, no, we're not going to charge it. You might charge someone, but I'm not. I won't. Yeah.
No way, yeah.
No,
And
my
it's only-
signature is free.
It's only 10 months away, so, plan ahead.
Yeah.
Save up your money that we're not going to charge you and then
All right.
spend it on something else.
And let's remind our listeners you can find us on Facebook and YouTube at Monster Party TV, our Twitter handle at Monster Party HQ. Instagram is also Monster Party HQ. If you're listening to us on iTunes while it's still around, please take a moment and write a review. We would love to hear from you, and chances are we will read it on the air.
On that note, I am Matt Weinhold.
I'm Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry Stroth.
And I'm James Gonis.
Keep the galaxy strong.
Watch anything that has to do with Star Wars. and listen to Monster Party.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Houdini. Matt, technical question. So if Owen and I just approach the mic like this, that won't...
No,
No, you have to hug it.
you have to hug it.
Totally hug it.
Should I
So you could take it off there, and you
take
could
it
just
off.
do
That
that.
might be
You know?
better. Because otherwise I think there's going to be a lot of clickety-clack.
Embrace it.
Yeah,
And I don't want to do this wrong because my eyes aren't so good right
yeah. Here he's trying to reach out to you. You don't even care. That's funny. You're all into the mic. He's like bearing his heart. Dad, I exist.
now. Oh, you.
Yeah, I know.
So
Okay.
what's the slant?
Condom breaks and your whole life goes to
You're
hell.
telling me.
He got used to you. It's fine. Yeah. I remember the first couple. I don't know.
Killer deadpan you just did. I wish you were kidding.
I don't know how many times I stopped him with the pillow. I'm like, no, it's gonna get better.
Like, we should try to, as much as we can, we should try to avoid.
And Derek, if you recall, like in the last show, what we do is Matt starts this creepy voice, and then we introduce ourselves, say what the topic is,
Yes.
and then we'll introduce our guest.
Great.
And that's how we work.
Okay.
Okay. So if you guys just wait till we do the
I won't say
introduction,
a word
okay?
until I'm called
And then,
upon.
of course, I know the boys and all that stuff that you've got going on, and at
you
the
get to
end we
plug
get to the
everything at the
end.
end, yeah.
At the end, so I know you got a lot of exciting stuff going on. The last, like
I'm here
plug
for you
away.
guys.
Well, I want you to plug because when you do that, it makes you sound great. you
Okay,
know?
well,
and it makes you sound prestigious,
there
which
is a
is what we want.
coincidence going
I kn-
on with this where the comic I'm currently working on.
Yeah.
Do you know about this?
I know.
anything.
You know what? Maybe I don't know. I knew that there was a tie with Star Wars somehow
The
with
comic
you.
that I'm currently drawing
Yeah.
is written and co-created by an old friend of mine who, while we were working on the comic, ended up writing Rogue One.
Okay.
Oh,
So
cool.
my friend Gary Whitta is the writer of Rogue One, and he's written the Last Jedi adaptation for Marvel, and he also wrote episodes of Rebels. So there is a Star Wars tie in here, and something I'm currently doing. So
Great.
Rogue One is a movie nobody hates.
I like it's true.
That's true. That actually is true.
Actually, yeah.
Most people either go, "It's good" or "I love it."
Yeah. It's good.
I don't hear anybody go, "That's a terrible movie."
I've heard one person say that.
Well, they don't count.
We can. We can.
There's
I
always
preferred
one.
Rogue 2.
There's always one.
Wasn't
Okay,
Lu-
well, just for
Lucas's,
the sake of context, in case I wasn't really clear, like I've been a Star Wars hyper fan since '77.
Yeah.
I saw it in the theaters. I was one of the kids that went and saw
Yeah.
it multiple times. I've collected my whole life. I made
Yeah.
custom figures. I love Star Wars.
Great. This is great because what we can do if you're total pro, pro Star Wars. What's great is when we can get to some things that we have issues with. You can either defend it, you
Okay.
know.
I'd like to see that.
Well,
not.
I mean, because
Or
Matt,
not.
Matt and I have always as close as we've been as friends is we have the parting of the ways on Star Wars, Star Trek. Although I love Star Trek too, but I'm not as.
And I like
passionate.
Star Wars.
Right, and I like Star Trek.
Right.
So for
I understand.
us, it's like we have the opposite side of the bridge there.
Yeah.
But we're Canada and America in that regard.
A little bit country, a little bit rock and roll.
Right, there you go.
See,
Boy, this is.
Beatles and Stones.
no. It's not country and rock and roll. That is not
why
the
is it not
case.
country and rock and
It's
roll?
more like America and Canada.
It's more like chocolate and peanut butter.
That's what that was.
It
Thank
has
you,
been
Larry.
decreed.
It's more like peanut butter and onions, if anything.
No, it's not peanut butter and onions either. That's ridiculous.
No, no other opinions are allowed.
No, it's like an opinion is allowed if it makes sense. It's not like, how about bubble gum and peanut butter?
Peanut butter and onions?
All right. I can see how this is going to go.
Yeah,
A lot of editing.
yeah. Now,
Yeah.
before we go any further, I'm just going to ask a really stupid question.
What's that?
Now, you have seen the Star Wars films, right?
Yeah. A couple of them.
I've movies with Star in it. Star is Born. That's part of the franchise, right?
Yeah.
Star Chamber?
Star Chamber.
Star Chamber.
Star 80, definitely, yeah. I'm familiar.
The Hong Kong action series My Lucky Stars.
Sure, yeah.
Even
This is never gonna start.
I have a confession.
See,
Battle of the Hollywood Stars.
I gotta do one thing. I just gotta make sure.
you do your one thing.
Star Chamber, man. What?
Battle of the Network Stars.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna save it for the show. I was gonna ask you something. I'm gonna save it for the show.
Okay.
After Capricorn 1,
Yeah.
I was so hyped for
Star Chamber?
Peter Hyams.
Yeah, it was
'Cause-
like a follow-up to Capricorn 1.
Yeah,
I
but
still liked it, though.
it wasn't horrible.
Star Chamber.
Star Chamber.
Chamber. Yeah.
This is the only.
Cool idea.
This is the only time Star Chamber's ever going to come up. Right.
All right.
The whole episode in Star Chamber.
Okay. Let's do
Well,
it.
Sharing glass.
oh, I never thought interiors would ever come up, but you never know.
Again and again and again.
By the way, James, I wanted to tell you, because when would you do like either a Patreon or an episode on films that we change our mind about?
Ah,
I recently watched one and I've changed my mind about.
I'm
really?
gonna wait till
it-
that's done.
No,
Yeah. Go ahead. Which one?
and it's one that you would never think. Quintet.
Oh my God! Wow.
Well, because I never really watched it all the way through.
Yeah.
I have an appreciation for it now.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you,
Wow.
do you know when I've caught it? I go, oh my gosh,
It's
that's
not
the
for all
quintet.
tastes, but it's
and I would change it
it's
because
a
of you.
Dedicated vision of how he wanted to do it, and it's interesting.
I have
It's-
to
it's
watch it again.
Super bleak
I
and
have to
super,
watch
but
it
it's
again.
interesting. It's interesting. I'm just saying.
It's not.
I
It's
did-
not super interesting.
I did have
You are
insomnia,
wrong.
and I was up all night. I watched the whole thing all the way through.
Yeah.
Hoping
Would
it
you
would
like
cure
hit
your
yourself with a
insomnia.
hammer before you
but
watch
that's
movies?
the thing. I thought if any movie's gonna be able to put me to sleep, it's Quintet, but it didn't. So.
Okay.
Yeah?
And on that note,
Wow.
my
but you
wife.
have problems sleeping. So
yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. My wife texted you about a film that you recommended. Did you get that text? No,
was
she
that?
texted you asshole. It was like a few days
asshole.
ago, and it was like, and she goes, why didn't he call me? Why didn't he text me back? I go, he's a really busy guy, and I thought, well, just you know what was on Turner Classic Movies was Santa Claus, the Mexican, the 1950s, and it was really late at night, and
That is a good
and I
one.
said, oh my God, Carrie, this is one of Sean's favorite movies. She decided to watch for 5 minutes. She watched the entire thing, and she says, oh my God, tell Sean this is my new favorite holiday
yeah,
film.
it's no quintet.
No.
God.
It's just not the same without the MST
Wow.
commentary, though.
What don't you like anymore?
No, I'm not saying it's a great.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but that was an uncomfortable silence.
I was.
Get used to them.
Wasn't I just saying?
No,
that you
I
would
just
have
felt that you
love,
wanted to start
Sean?
this eventually.
No,
Isn't
you're
that what I
no.
just said?
God
Like,
bless you.
Yeah, I know.
Uncomfortable silence and
You
talking
see,
over each
that's
other.
what I'm here for.
Silence.
But everyone jumps on me. It's like, okay, I'm ready to go.
I love you, Larry.
Everyone.
Yes.
All right.
Well,
I've yet to jump on.
James.
No, but he will.
Yeah.
James.
No, I was gonna say James has not.
Oh, thank you.
Jumped
Thank
on
you,
me.
buddy. Okay.
All right.
So
All right. So
everyone
let's
is-
start this fucking thing.
You have something to drink, right?
Yeah.
Okay, here
You
we
got
go.
some water.
Well,
Wow.
That's what I meant. Juice.
Man, how old are you?
soda.
How old are you? How old are you? Answer the question.
You need some blue milk.
No. No, there's none of that crap. Come on.
How many acid trips have you had so far?
Let's not.
Let's
pick,
make this your first.
Let's not pick on the young.
Can I get a number 5, please? I'd just like
See,
So now, is this how it's going to be done with the mic, where you're going to have it as far
Hopefully
away
not.
from him as possible?
remember what I
was
said?
told- I just got a rundown on what I was supposed to
Yes.
do.
What was he supposed to do?
He's gonna have the mic most of the time here.
Listen to me.
No,
Listen to me.
no.
Put that more in the middle.
Okay, that's fine.
There you go.
I was
Thank you.
doing what James said was
James,
run down.
what did you tell him?
No, Larry.
I'm sorry, Larry.
It's all right.
Apologize.
I know everyone gets us mixed up because we're
you
so
can-
similar.
But you can hold it too. You can hold
My
it.
God, when you listen to us, it's like, oh my
that?
gosh, is that James or Larry? I can't tell.
Here's the thing. The last person I see is the first name that comes out of my mouth. That happens to me all the time.
Really?
I know you're Larry. I know you're James. I know you're Sean. I know.
Mark,
Yeah. Okay. Haha.
So
Martha.
Milt.
It was a slip of the
Okay,
tongue.
so this is what we're gonna do. See,
But I was listening to-
this is no. Don't listen to him. This is what we're doing.
That's what I'm
The-
asking.
yes, the goal is to be as close to the mic as possible.
Which is why I was here, because he told me there was an order of how things were going to
Yes.
proceed.
Right,
Yes.
but if you have your drink in the middle when it finally comes to
Over
sharing,
here on your
Oh! You see,
Unbelievable.
we had everything perfect, and you
No,
come
we
in here.
didn't.
Yes, we did. And
I-
you
I
came
just
in
didn't
and you
realize
fucked everything up. You've messed
that
it up.
something as
It's
simple
like,
as a
oh,
fucking
let's-
microphone
Let's put this here.
is
Let's
like
put this
you're
there.
like, how do I do it? Which end do I speak into?
It's as if we've never done this before. You know what it is?
Wow.
Specifically, I wanted to avoid that.
Do you know what microphones are?
That's why I had it here.
But then he can't get to it.
And
you're still not talking into the microphone.
No. Put that back on. Put that back. Sit down. We're
Mike?
gonna do this show.
Okay.
Hey guys, Derek Robertson here.
We've been wanting to do this show for years.
You're gonna sit the hell down and do this.
Okay.
And look, there's a lot of
This is
tension.
what I
There's a
need.
lot of
This is what I
tension.
need. This is
There's a
what I
lot of
need.
tension in
and
the room.
you are bringing all of it. Now speak directly into the microphone. I need to hear how it sounds. That is. Now we're not getting you.
I know what happened. I think
That's weird.
Test.
Did he turn it
I don't hear
off?
myself.
Did you turn off the mic?
didn't do shit except knock it off.
Is the mic off? Is what I'm asking here.
There's a little button on it.
The little button on there. Is it off?
I don't know. Yes.
Oh, his mic was off.
Oh, we almost saved the show. Now try it. Now,
Fuck you. How's
Good.
Is that fuck all of y'all?
all right.
Is that
Now,
coming through clear?
Am I still
now,
okay?
now
I
you
don't hear
lean
me.
in, and let's get a sample.
Hello?
Okay,
Now,
he's
now
fine.
what if
He's
your
fine.
chair is a little closer to his?
That's a good
Well,
question.
you told me to put it over here.
Okay, again, trust me.
Okay.
I'm trying
The,
to.
the point is to you two to be as close to that mic as possible.
Right.
When it's your turn, have it cheating toward
Right,
you,
Okay.
and you can take it out of the mic stand at
That's
any
what
point.
I was concentrating on because my understanding was
Yes.
Larry told
G-
me
Why does he need the mic stand?
there was
No,
an
no,
order
no,
of
there's-
things, and he said
there
he didn't
is.
want Owen to come in until later.
We're gonna-
So I
He
was
will,
gonna
He's
put
going to
something
dominate.
here.
He's going to dominate at the beginning.
Yes, I
Okay.
that's agreed.
And
But
that's-
still, we're getting ready for the second half, so it can be a smooth transition.
Well, when Owen's
But if
coming
you-
in, I would have quietly put it over that
Oh,
way, but
well,
I was
okay,
afraid I
got
was screwing up your fucking system.
And the other thing we can do is we could actually say,
All right.
why don't you speak more?
The
into mic?
topic is Logan's Run.
Owen actually saw that. So.
Okay,
That
can
was
you hear me?
good.
Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay.
You, I can hear.
My headphones on. Okay.
Larry. All right, let's start it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
just go.
I don't feel good, and my lips hurt real bad.
All right, great, perfect.
Okay, so moment of silence, please.
Okay,
Here we go.
can we just take a quick break because I've been holding a pee? And can you then go
Yeah.
into the
Yeah.
the toy
Is that
thing?
okay?
Is that all right with
Cool.
you?
I'd
Yeah.
love
Is
a
that
refill
okay?
too.
Is that okay?
Yeah, good.
I just before you because I know I want to let this
Yeah, because, look,
go
we're
organically.
We're at the end.
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Thank
we
you.
are.
That was great. I
this
did
is
it, man.
this
It was
is
fun. I-
We've talked about the specials. We talked about Disney. The transfer to Disney. You did this beautiful thing. We're just dealing with the toys.
I do want to at some point point out that it's makes perfect sense that there's a Star Wars land, considering that at the same time there is still a roller coaster that is based on Song of the South.
Right. Good point. Save that. Go pee.
James, trust your opinions.
You have no articulation, James.
Let me know when you're
for
ready.
sure.
There's no posability.
Posability is overrated, I think.
I agree.
So I was thinking on that note, and then we do
Keep America strong.
watch anything having to do with Star Wars or watch Star Wars anything, and then I was thinking we could say and listen to Monster Bar, listen to Billy Barty, listen to Monster Party, and I was going to say you'll never
Find a more wretched hive. Of
You'll never
scum
find a more
and
wretched
villainy.
hide of
The
scum and villainy. What do you think?
I love it.
Is that all right?
At the end, you have to go OTD.
You do that. Okay.
Is that how you're going to do it?
Yeah, that's how they do it.
I.
Ootini.
It's Utini.
Utini.
Yeah.
Ootini.
That's better. I want to make sure you get the line
It
right.
takes
That's
a
all.
village. I'm telling you. Yeah, you know.
What does that mean?
Quality control.
What is that Java speak for? Because they do it several times,
It,
several movies.
yeah. It's like a happiness thing. It's like
Oh, that's
hooray.
good.
Yeah.
Hooray!
Utini,
Yeah.
okay.
That's good. Ootini.
It's like you shot the droid. Yeah, kind of thing. But
Ootini.
Ootini.
That should be a drink. An Ootini.
Yeah, Utini. Utini Martini.
Ah.
okay, that's the hooray drink. Yeah, sure.
Okay. I think we've dissected this
Yes.
already
Yeah,
enough.
Sean.
All right. All right, go.
Okay.
Should we do
Keep America
I'm-
strong.
Matt?
Oh, and
Ben Kenobi.
yeah.
What do you
Can
want
you
me to
try
do?
it?
Okay.
You'll never. What is it?
You want me to say it?
Yeah, I wanted you to say it.
You will never find a more wretched hive.
That's pretty
of
good, right?
scum
That-
and
I like
villainy.
that. I
Should we
like
do
that. That's good.
Should we do Jedi Weinhold, Sith Sheridan? No, okay. Never mind. That's stupid. All right.
I mean,
It's not stupid. I we've done this. I don't know. I think
No,
that
we'll
should be
just do the other thing.
special.
Okay, let's go. Just go regular. Okay.
In this with this particular topic, it seems a tad cheesy.
Yeah.
It's like when we do that and it's something that no one's ever heard of.
Yeah,
It's,
okay.
it's funnier to me,
Right,
but
okay.
I don't. Whatever you want to do.
No, that's fine.
Okay. All right. On that note, I am Matt Weinhold.
I'm Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry Strothe.
And I'm James Gonis.
Keep America strong.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, sorry.
I thought this might be. What if you said
Yeah.
keep the universe strong?
I like it.
Is that-
No, I love it.
Okay.
Keep the galaxy.
Keep the galaxy strong.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Ooh, messing with the.
No,
Yeah,
I
little-
no.
just for this
Matt,
one, just
no,
for this
Matt,
one.
I love it. No, I
Okay.
liked it.
Okay,
Cool.
good.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, let me start from the beginning.
Should I do it just like my regular voice? Keep
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keep the galaxy strong.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay. On that note, I am Matt Weinhold.
I'm Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry Strothe.
And I'm James Gonis.
Keep the galaxy strong.
Watch everything that has to do with Star Wars.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Okay. Let's do it one more time.
I think my voice.
No,
cracked or
no, no.
something.
You were great. You were fine. Everybody was fine. But so do you need me? Should I then say? Because I was going to say, and listen to Monster Party because we're the wretched hive of scum and villainy.
I'm not sure I follow.
Yeah,
you.
yeah. No, yeah.
You know, and listen to Monster Party. You'll
Watch,
never.
watch anything to do with Star Wars and listen to Monster Party. You will never find a more.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
One more time.
Okay.
On that note, I am Matt Weinhold.
I'm Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry Strothe.
And I'm James Gonis.
Keep the galaxy strong.
Watch anything that has to do with Star Wars.
You will never find a more.
No.
Oh.
So you want me to say it?
No.
You continue.
I thought
to
you
say-
were
You
gonna
want
get-
me to continue?
I thought
to
you
say
were
it.
gonna
I thought
continue.
you were
and
I
listen
missed-
to
and
Monster
listen to
Party.
Monster
Yeah,
Party.
yeah.
Got it. Okay. One more time and we'll get this right.
Yeah.
Okay. On that note, I am Matt Weinhold.
I'm Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry Strothe.
And I'm James Gonis.
Keep the galaxy strong.
Watch anything that has to do with Star Wars. And listen to Monster Party.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. That was funny. That was cute.
Beautiful.
Thank you guys.